didn't see that coming.
A classic, and at the same time, progressive.
Go, 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 go. Saw dudes, what's up? How's it going? How's everyone feeling out there? I know I'm feeling fantastic, and you know why? Because I never doubted them. Never doubted them. Cloud9 making it out of the groups. Had my predictions. Only team I got right in my pick'ems. But we take those dubs. We take them. Easy peasy. Ha ha ha. In your faces, everyone who doubted. How dare you? Anyways, I should probably give it back to Ravish. That's enough of me. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Alex. Welcome, all of you, to the UPL desk here. I'm Ravish, the most Ravish man on the internet. Joined here by Destrux and Pater, head coach of ISU. As you can tell, I'm dressed for the occasion in exact our opposite fashion. I'm Mr. Mad Magical here. I just wanted to go ahead and rub it in their faces a little bit. That Annie over EU, baby. Let's go. So decided to put on the jersey.
I'm still trying to take in what just happened with Alex right there. Magical. You put in a little bit too much madness right now, brother.
I respect the C9 grind. Got to support your favorite teams, and you got the pick'ems right, so that's all that matters.
Yeah. I did not get my pick'ems right. I decided, you know what? It's as much hopium and copium that I had to take every single year. This year was the year I was like, no. You know what? I'm not going to believe in them just so I can get my points because I want to win something. And they actually did it. Now, although I'm happy about it, but like, my points, guys, please. But I digress nonetheless. So what doesn't matter is like what happened to me, what happens. What matters is that, and they made it out. We're all very, very happy for two different reasons. Number one, that happened. And number two is we've got some banger matches coming at you tonight. Ain't that right, Destrux?
I mean, you're talking about hopes and dreams. What about copes and dreams? Because it's going to be an AOE Civil War here today, Ravish. Got an interesting one coming up as AOE Cope is looking to take on AOE Dreams.
You are correct, my friend. As the AOE Civil War shall continue, obviously, there is a little bit of power ranking disparity between the two. You know, one is always the top of the group and the other not doing so hot, which is unfortunate. But yet yesterday, we were also talking about punching above the belt, which is what Winthrop B was doing. So maybe AOE can do that to AOE today. But, Peter, before we get into all the specifics, they want to get your overall take on the players we got tonight.
I think there's a lot of very talented players that could definitely see their way into some of the LCS affiliate teams, the top amateur teams, or even heading into academy sometime soon. It's kind of weird that even one of these teams, without even seeing any of the league, you could even guess that they would be at the bottom of the standings. Because there's, again, so much talent on each roster. AOE brought two teams just high level to UPL in the same group, and hopefully one can bounce back and the other can continue the success.
That's the biggest thing right there. And I find there are a couple keys to success that we might see here tonight. And considering both these red rosters, like you mentioned, extremely talented players. These guys are phenomenal both on and off the rift. And you should also probably give them all a follow because they're all good looking, as almost as much as my wonderful analyst is here. But one more thing that absolutely shines on about them are the players that you were mentioning, right? Just there's a lot more depth from one, but specifically Destrux. She did.
Yeah, Sheedon is a player I've been looking forward to seeing for a while now. We got little bits and pieces of him in the UPL and in the RCL last year, towards the end of the year. And the bits we saw, he played 4 games in each league and averaged 9 kills out of every single one of those games for both of those leagues. He's a very competent jungler when it comes down to it. It was just a shame that he had, unfortunately, a competitive ban that went through due to some behavioral issues. Now we're reformed. We're hitting the rift, baby, and AOE Cope, man, they're looking so good with Sheedon alongside them. They have a lot of new players. They have some experienced players over with like Duo King, for example. Concept of X is someone who has been a UPL Spring champion just in the spring. So it's a very competent team. It's been well put together, and it's working like a well-oiled machine.
Like, that's the biggest thing about it, right? Considering with this new adjustment, like you compare it to how Tyler was Rise yet again when he came back all strong, even more jacked. It was all about being reformed, and it seems reformation has done so well. Which, by the way, also you also talking about Concept, bro. Concept was an absolute animal at the top side. I remember talking before, picking up top lane tips, and he told me, remember, if you miss a cannon, you should FF at 15. So I think I've been following that consistently all throughout times. My win rate has never looked better. But somebody else, Peter, who also knows how to win, are Dinka. And also, of course, with his new team.
Well, yeah, so Dinka used to be on the AOE Dreams team, and now he's been replaced by Speedo. And Speedo comes from the Cloud9 Amateur. He's been in the scene for a bit over. He used to be at Harrisburg University, but has found a lot of success in T9 Amateur, having some really good upsets in Proving Grounds, and he really showed that he can compete with the best. But also on that team, you also have players like Darkwings. If you've watched Proving Grounds, you know who this is. Formerly Zoo's mid laner, when they made their really very good run. He has so much talent. His control mages, his Azir, specifically he's probably my favorite Azir in amateur. And I think he can definitely be someone to rise to the occasion and get his team out of this slump.
And I'm going to say, this is why it's a little bit of a bummer for me, seeing the way AOE Dreams has been performing. Because if you see this roster on paper at the start of UPL, you see this as being a top team. You definitely see them topping their groups, going all the way to semifinals, finals even. A lot of these players, 3 of these members played together during the LCS Proving Grounds. And as Peter said, there's a lot of experience in both Speedo and Link being on that roster. So it's such a bummer to see them fall so low, having that 1-2. You know, we saw that week 2 loss against Winthrop, followed up with the loss against Grandview University. They need to start ramping up. They have a lot of potential. They have the individual talent, but they need the macro. They need the team play. If that can come together, this can still be a pretty strong squad.
Well, let's find out here what we think first and foremost before we head into the game, just to see whether what we want to happen might just happen. That's just starting off with you, homie. Who you got for tonight? Oh, sorry, start with Peyton. Sorry.
So I think that these teams have had a while to adjust, bounce back. Speedo kind of coming in, more experience. I think AOE Dream's going to bounce back. They got the skill to challenge 2-0.
All right. I gotta ask my buddy real quick. Hold on, let me pull him on screen. Hey, who do I take?
Wrong direction.
Okay. 2-0 AOE Cope.
Well, I mean, you know what, guys? I like what y'all thinking. I like where your head is at. Stop it right now. I don't like this. I don't enjoy it. I'm not a fan of it. I need to shut down immediately. And clearly, I have AOE Cope to it. I was gonna say, man, I've been hitting that copium all day, so might as well continue on with the trend. With that being said, we do of course have our cashes on deck, Travesty and Rebel Fox. After this short break, we'll see you on the other end of it.
What about for me? Are you getting it for me? Okay, cool. You know what? I'm going to do an introduction until we figure out this entire thing. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to our wonderful desk, our wonderful secret guest, and our fantastic predictions for the day. As it seems like Travisy's just figuring out his beautiful face gets to sit next to you and just be pretty for us, which is usually what it's there for in the first place. His words are also quite nice, but you'll have to wait a little longer for some of those as we're getting into our action in today, the AOE Civil War here. Hopefully AoE Dream able to turn around at least a little bit of what had happened for the beginning part of the split, where we had their roster had some changes to it there here and there, and now they're sitting closer to the bottom of the barrel inside of that group, whereas the side of Cope, they have been doing insane stuff inside of this split, being able to take themselves into a 3-0 position as we've begun off, starting into draft again as soon as we figure out some of the technical issues that are going on with Mr. Travisty's microphone. Mr. Travesty, you want to give us some hand signals as to like how you feeling today? You're feeling great. That's what we like to hear. That's wonderful. I can try to translate as much as possible. All right, what do you think about our matchup on the day? You think Ravish is incorrect? That's all you have to say about today's games. Okay, I think Ravish predicted a 2-0 for Cope. So that's interesting because he's predicting at minimum that it's not going to be a 2-0 for Cope. So something along those lines. As again, what we're seeing now also is we're coming into kind of the mid split of what is happening in the season is that we're starting to think about what the playoff race is going to look like. And for a team that's currently sitting closer to the bottom of the standings in that bottom two within this division, really important that Dream's able to kind of turn things around now before anything else gets completely out of hand. Because right now, again, now that their roster's kind of solidified and we have them set up as like, the entire bottom half of AoE's entire thing, and then you've got like Link and Speedo stepping in. This roster's got high expectations, as I believe Travesty, after messing up with Ravish's predictions, he's back to kind of defend himself here.
I am back here to defend myself. Thank you, Rebel. And dude, I guess the hype overloaded the system here, and my mic couldn't catch up to any of it. We're united here in North America going into Worlds, but here in the amateur scene, we got a great divide in front of us, man. I want to see what this Civil War entails. I want to see who's Iron Man, who's Captain America here. There's a lot of questions that are to be answered here today.
It's a great experience to get a really good idea of what this AOE kind of organization in total is doing, because we see a number of their rosters. They're in every single amateur tournament. They're here in UPL in complete deployment, all over the place, trying to get as many players as possible exposure. And this is one of the best examples of that exactly happening, where AOE Cope, one of these rosters that's got a ton of players you've heard of before, people like Concept, Sheeden, Captain Shrimps, all people that you've got, Duo King, a lot of names that you would have recognized from the last couple of years in terms of competitive play at and around the academy level. On the other side, again, the entire back half, we saw these guys at Proving Grounds, Darkwing, Sketchstream, Zyko, all players that you're familiar with as the main roster AoE only a couple months ago.
Yeah, and it's curious to see what the synergy will be like. This team did have Dinka originally, which was alluded to in the analyst test, but they were looking for a girlfriend for them, and I guess Dinka did find girlfriend. I'm not entirely sure on what that detailed, but now Speedo up here into the top side. Have to see if the synergy is being born here for this squad as we're going into this very beginning of the pick ban phase. And let me tell you, they do have a heaping task in front of them, because like you said, there's some veteranship from the amateur scene over across the table.
But there is. I like that they're taking away, like, immediately you've got, like, the misfortune off the board for sketch streams. They're trying to take power out of this bottom side, which, again, when it comes to AoE, when you're looking at, like, the competitive experience, it's not that Link and Speedo can't do a lot of carrying, more so that, again, we're accustomed to seeing what Sketch, Darkwing, Zyko are capable of doing. You think that strong side is going to be there for the side of AoE when it comes to what they're able to do in that. And on the opposite side, when you're talking about AoE Cope, this is another interesting, because the exact opposite's true. You got Shrimps, who's always going to pull a bunch of attention. I'm not to discount what Blue Skies and Duo King are capable of doing on bot side, but Concept being there too. We've seen him out of the loop for the most part inside of Proving Grounds this entire split, but he was an absolute menace back on Revival. He's an amazing top lane player. I want to see where he's in terms of how much he's developed over the last couple of weeks, months, that kind of thing.
You can call him Concept of Etz, because Etz is going to give it to you. That is one thing for certain over there inside of the top side. And hey, listen, I want to see if there's going to be a reply. I also like the fact that we're seeing Morgana Zyra taken off the table here. making sure to take away those specific champions away, while on the other side, Cope said, Misfortune, gone. Ziggs, not having it.
It's been a minute since I've seen Duo King, but I seem to remember him being a very heavy support kind of carry player, where he's willing to take the mages, he's willing to take some enchanter type champions, things that are a little bit more unorthodox, at least in terms of what you see in competitive play, or what we've seen for the last couple of years with like the Leona, the Alistar, the Thresh. Not to say he can't play those, but more so that the champion pool is oriented towards some of the damaging type picks. So expectations are there, and you see that in two regards. You got the Morgana off the board as much as possible, Zyra also taken off the board, making sure he's not getting anything of that sort.
Yeah, but Aphelios is going to go ahead and get the call, and he'll pick it up readily. So we will see Cope be able to grab that for themselves here. As Dream, now it's in their pocket. What do they want to take away from this squad? Camille could be an interesting first answer.
Pick for Speedo specifically, wanting to get him onto something very powerful. Obviously, if they're willing to blind pick it, it's a very strong champion. You're capable of countering it with a number of different things, things from both kind of a closer range and further out. I know even things like Wukong come to mind because it's concept that we're talking about in terms of what champion pool that he's got in his back pocket. Got a lot that's really unique to him, and so maybe that's the idea, is like, okay, we pick this early, we make sure we don't have to give up too much information later. We already know the concept is going to be getting this counter pick, so otherwise AoE potentially runs the risk of losing the Camille or having up that band up. So I would have liked to see it almost on R3 and getting something to try to counter the Aphelios, but they're comfortable just taking the Leona for now, waiting to see what it is that the rest of the bot lane plan is for the side of Cope.
There's a lot of options for themselves. Lee Sin, of course, getting taken off the table, but now there's also some other champions. They can grab a support for themselves. Thresh is still up on the table if we do want to see something along those lines. They have actually quite a bit of information to work with to give some safety to this Aphelios, make sure it doesn't get blinded.
Be the case. Again, I'm curious whether or not there is an actual legitimate, like, kind of AP type response that you would see out of the support position. Concept is going for the Jax. Again, it's not shocking. Concept has this kind of unique champion type pool, and so it's not crazy for him to be like, okay, we see Camille this early, we pick Jax this early, as just that kind of like in idealistic counter, being able to use that counter strike, deny some of the attack damage. And it also gives an attacking point of the map. With Aphelios on bottom side, now with the Leonia on the other side, it's kind of difficult to generate a really powerful lane down there. And so now it's like, okay, we've got Jax, we've got something we can play to, he's got CC, he's got some mobility, let's try to put some effort up into the top side.
Oh, I like this pick, by the way, from Darkwings here. We got to hear a little bit of hype up for the man in the mid lane, and Darkwings has been phenomenal, especially playing these high DPM champions out here like the Azir that was talked about, and also the Cassia. So we do get to see a very comfortable pick for them, and now they get to target out Shrimps.
I have nothing problematic to say about Darkwings when it comes to his, like, control mage pool, but I always prefer to see him on stuff that's a little bit more, I guess, like, skill-intensive, positioning-intensive, because he is just so good at that kind of thing. And so, like you said, the DPM, the damage champions, the ones that can carry entire fights on their own, those are the ones I love to watch him play. And then this is, of course, in that boat. And like you said, when you're walking against the side of Captain Shrimps, where he's, got this champion Ocean to work with, having been the only recorded singed mid-game on the database for the number of time, hey, this guy's got a ton in his back foot. Now you've got your Cassiopeia, you've been able to lock that in for your solo lane. Now you can try to take away as much as possible when it comes to that. Interestingly also, though, if you're noticing, Cope is taking away other potential mid laners, thinking maybe Sketch will flex this into the bottom side, because they're taking off two solo laners here, making sure not to give this Cassiopeia bot lane no respect whatsoever. It's possible Sketch Dreams wants to flex it there. That's clearly the idea that Cope is going for right now.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, Dream they're in a situation where they can pick their jungler right here, and they get to keep so much a mystery. This is beautiful from their part if they decide to go this route, and we'll have to see if that's going to be what Link wants, if it will be the jungle. Oh, the Kha'Zix locked in.
We're seeing a bunch of skill checking right now. We had the Aphelios get locked in. You've got Leona on the other side. You've got then Jax into this Camille. You've got Kha'Zix into the likes of this Lee Sin. Now we're even hovering Shaco, which would be crazy in terms of the support pick. The kind of counter engage that you can do against the likes of the Leona would be kind of insane to think about. Again, I'm curious about what this tool is going to eventually entail when it comes to what we're going to watch out of the mid and into the bottom lane, because we're still not even sure whether or not the Cassiopeia is going to end up flexing into the bottom lane or into the mid lane. Ends up being the Alistar. I like this Duo King. He's a playmaker. I saw the pool a lot of the time, at least back in the day, was a bunch of those more like caster type champions. So This is still something that can have a bunch of kind of interaction,
Ooh.
a bunch of play with the map. And this is an old-timey Shrimp special. This is like the mid-lane rumble that's going to go popping off in this mid side. He was one of the best at it when it did come out, and he's kind of kept it in that pool. He's really good at it, used it in a couple of very clutch moments.
Yep, and as a response, the Silas counter pick comes in. So scouted the Cassio towards the bot side. Beautiful on the part of Cope to realize this early on, but Dream gets a lot of things that they want, and you know, the Silas makes beautiful sense into the Rumble pit.
And it does. You're able to challenge against it. If he's overheating, it becomes difficult to try to auto-trade. But outside of that, again, the healing is there. Being able to use a kind of response equalizer oftentimes is going to be really helpful, especially when you pair that with the likes of a Cassiopeia, because now all of a sudden, you've got this huge area control between the Q, between the Miasma, between the ultimate, between the equalizer. It's just so hard to try to attack, especially in kind of clustered spaces on either side now. So we have to see these teams be a little bit more crafty with the way that they're trying to approach some of these team fights if we're going to get into that area of the game.
I am going to keep my eyes on these mid laners in combination with the jungles here, because you got Lee Sin and Kha'Zix. You got to keep an eye on them to making some early plays, right? To make that impact happen earlier on inside the game. But also, these mid laners can have a huge impact when paired together with these junglers. So, me personally, I'm looking at Link Darkwings. I'm looking at Sheeta and Shrimps here and seeing what they're going to be able to do as duos here.
To me, how I'm looking at this is going to eventually turn into is right now, it seems as though your top side here for Cope is going to be where a lot of your aggression is. We set that up as being like, okay, it's concept, it's cap and shrimps. We know what those what those players are capable of. They're set up with champions that like Jax, a little bit of resource, going to be able to run the Camille matchup on the mid lane. That Rumble, if you're able to break it out from the Silas, even just a little bit in the early game, you know how devastating that Captain Shrimps can be on this Rumble pick when it's roaming, team fighting faster than what the Silas is going to be able to provide. So my expectation, Cope, they want to play to their top side as much as possible. This Alistar, while it's not exactly impossible to engage when you're sitting across from a Miasma, across from a Leona, it's not entirely easy with an Aphelios to try to aggress in the early game. Really, it's there just to make sure the Aphelios isn't going to get bullied out, is going to have some breathing room on this bottom side so that all this pressure can be applied to top side. And then all of a sudden, this team fighting comes together with like Rumble Ultimate, Aphelios Ultimate, and you've got some clockworks running.
Well, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to throw it over to a quick ad break. And after the ad break is done, we are going to see the AOE Civil War. It will be televised, and we'll be right back.
I drink a lot of sodas when I'm gaming. Might as well drink something that's good for me. Head over to drinkolipop.com and order your favorite flavor.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are going into our first game of this series tonight. We got AOE Cope on the blue side and AOE Dream over on the red side. If you're just now joining us, my name is Travis. I'm joined with my ever so lovely co-caster, Rebel Fonts. And Rebel, we are seeing a very standard start from both of these squads.
30 seconds
Nope.
until minions
Just 5
spawn.
pointing, nothing too crazy, at least to begin with. We're not going to see any action at the very beginning of this game. So it gives us a chance to kind of overlook everything one last time before anything else. I know we didn't talk too much about what the side of AoE Dreams is going to look like, which was weird. Coming into this, we pointed out that Sketch Dream, Zyko, Darkwings, that bottom side is where a lot of attention could end up being put. But I actually think that contesting this top side, making sure that Jax and that the the Rumble don't get going, might be the way to go here for the side of Link. Putting some challenge into Sheedan specifically. This bot side should be ambiently pretty solid to deal with. Again, when you've got this Alistar, it's going to be more for disengage. Duo King's having himself a one-man band moment here in this bottom tri-brush. You can appreciate that because against the likes of this Leona Cassiopeia, I don't anticipate this Alistar having a bunch of fun with that miasma up at only the level 3 with an exhaust in the back pocket. It's not going to be an enjoyable time. So my expectation is a lot of the early game, especially the first 10 minutes, we're probably going to see mostly around this top side, which makes me interested for things like First Dragon, where, again, bottom side should be controlled by Sketchstream Zyko. Does that end up getting traded, or is it competition? Are we going to try to see somebody get a push advantage and get deployed into that Rift Herald pit to see some early action these games?
Let's see it. Tip the scales for the skill check. Concept already trying to give it to Speedo here, as a Counter-Strike will be able to come out, lay out a good amount of damage. But, I mean, this is the early trading between these two that we were looking to see. Is just the two stylistic ways that these guys like to play is just, let's run at each other and let's see who gets that first advantage.
Yeah, oftentimes it's the more kind of standard and the more like kind of lane focused, minion focused you are as this Jax to start this level 1, the harder it is for the Camille to like play out, or the easier it is for Camille to play out, because then you're just poking away with W. They hit level 2 at the same time.
Yeah, but look at this. It gets turned on its head so quickly. First blood going over to Sketch.
I was really shocked what had happened right there. I think Blue Skies and Duo King, they thought that they were going to hit level 2 and there was not going to be a response from Sketchstreams and Zyko. But they hit level 2 at exactly the same time. And so because of that, again, when you've got like the Aftershock of Leona, deceptively tanky, able to deny that, Duo King, his Aftershock runs out relatively quickly. And while Sketchstreams burnt his entire mana bar, there's not much. Now on the same, as Sheedan is here, defensive teleport might drive this away.
Yeah, it's a stun that was able to connect onto the Lee Sin. They're able to get out with the kill onto Speedo. Darkwings is here by himself now, and there's 3 members bearing down upon him. A double kill, another TP, another challenger. Speedo looking to see if he'll be able to play cleanup, but all 3 members get away.
Very well played by Cope, leaning into the Jax lane as much as possible to start with. We saw the action on bot. We saw that there was going to be a back or something taken, much more defensive posturing. And Cope immediately respond. They say, okay, we're going to walk top lane. We shoved out the mid lane against the likes of Darkwings, burnt his TP, and killed him. Both kills went on to the Jax. It would have been nice if the Rumble ended up picking up at least one of those 2 kills. But you can appreciate at least that now the Jax feeling great in this laning phase against the likes of the Camille. The Camille bought nothing. You got the refillable pot, and you've got the Doran shield up against a full Sheen, a longsword, and that kind of the corrupting potion as well, which is, it's going to be really difficult now. This Camille doesn't feel good to play against the likes of the Jax, even after this like early game, which usually doesn't feel horrible. This is a horrible place to be.
Especially when you don't got flash, right? Like, it makes it very difficult as Shrimp is getting jumped on too. Beautiful Zenith Blade, a beautiful rotation, and a kill equalized in the mid lane.
And immediately a punish, and that it's opening up concept for at least a little bit more trading potential on top side. And it's Cope who spent a bunch of resource making sure that Jax was going to go.
This is a 1v1. You're looking a little isolated, and Link capitalizing onto it immediately. Lee Sin getting away, and Jax playing defensive as well now.
Very nice start to what it is that Dream is trying to do, because they are trying to counteract some of the initial plays that we saw from the likes of Cope, where they dove that top tower, got 2 kills for the Jax. Link already up here, and Zyko already up here looking for the dive. This is huge.
This is just like, they're trying to do what they can to just punish Concept, that they can find a way. But this huge mini wave, they don't want to test the waters with that. Don't want a chance giving any other kills over, so they will just do the safe move and keep everything at an even standstill.
Very, very good. That was dangerous, because losing that whole wave as Concept would have effectively been a kill on its own. You give 1 to Speedo, deny that wave. All of a sudden, this looks very different in terms of laning phase. But we're okay. Nothing else happened. Sheedan was hovering, and then also Duo King with a little bit of prediction. He was a little ways out, but had they stalled a little bit too long, had the Jax been able to deny some of the attacking damage from Speedo, from Darkwings, from Link, as they went underneath that tower, from Zyko, my apologies, not Darkwings, as they were underneath that tower. And things could have gotten stalled out so long that eventually Duo King made his way there. You can see, again, I love this game plan. Dream's trying to move out, trying to help defend against the top side of the map where that pressure is going to be applied from Hope. It is opening up bot lane a little bit, but Cassiopeia feels fine in the bottom lane on her own. Gravitum is the one real threat to her, which is why Zyko can be here. Once that's gone, there's not many ways that's super easy, barring like a flash into like a headbutt pulverize, that a Cassiopeia is going to be under real danger against this bottom side.
I mean, you hit on it earlier with the miasma too, right? They throw the miasma down, and it's like the bot lane of Cope is walking through Blighttown all of a sudden. It's just absolutely miserable, and nobody enjoys their time there. So just doing the safe move, making sure to move around the map when they got the advantage, and now you see Cope trying to take advantage of this lane shove that they've been able to get and try and secure a little bit of something for their squad. Unfortunately, don't spot out that ward that is expertly placed.
We do not. Bottom side control is actually really heavily in favor of Cope, which is surprising, at least in terms of ward coverage, and also they've got push. This would have been a pretty decent opening for them to go for a dragon. Sheehan ended up on top side. I think if they had put the pressure back towards bottom side, they go for some of the dragon stacking. That gives them a really unique mechanic. Given that they have this big AoE composition, you'd think they want to force a bunch of kind of heavy multi-champion interaction around some of these objectives, things like this Rift Herald, things like these dragons, and stacking that early is one of those ways that you could put the pressure onto Dream to start kind of, putting their pressure, putting some resource into defending against those, where multiple targets all of a sudden have to be in river, where your tools are best used. I would have thought that that's something they would have prioritized. Instead, they continue to cover, making sure Concept is going to be comfortable in this one-on-one against the Camille. Once first item's done, especially with the lead that Concept has, that's going to be fine. And it's opening up for Link to try to put some more pressure on as well.
Check this out. Beautifully done. Equalizer gets laid out, but it's not enough. You see the Lee Sin going in, trying to see if he'll be able to hit anybody. He is 6 as that Dragon Rage kick, looking to put some feet to faces, but a double kill comes out for Link.
Not sure if the energy wasn't high enough right there from the side of the Dragon Kick, or whether or not that was just like he didn't have the right angle to hit both of them at the same time, which is what he would have wanted to have happen. But right there, it's Link who is again putting pressure on mid lane. Hasn't been able to find a bunch of assistance for Speedo on top to help out this Camille versus Jax. But again, putting this pressure onto Sheedan and onto Captain Shrimps, making sure that this Rumble isn't going to have permanent push into Darkwing's melee champion. All these kills have unfortunately gone onto the Kazakhs. That's not a bad thing necessarily when he is challenging this much as possible in the 2-on-2 between mid and jungle like kind of positions, as well as being just like this insane Kazakhs player, being able to roam around the map, have this very heavy burst damage to attack, especially Aphelios at the right moments, is something to consider. But you can appreciate at least that he understands that, making sure Captain Shrimps isn't able to move around as much as or as freely as he wants is a huge commodity for his team.
Especially since, like you were talking about earlier, we want to see these squad. You would think Cope wants to fight around these dragons, around the Herald, quite a bit. Want to fight around these neutral objectives and fight with this AoE they have. We are seeing the dragon being done at this current moment in time. Dream does have Link over towards the top side. Concept is getting vision, and this is Dragon going over for free over to the side of Cope at the current moment.
That is. Now, if Link wants to, he could try to punish Concept, because you just watched him take that ward, and he could watch him through the Tri-Brush. So this could be a setup here. Concept is going to hang on his own wall, making sure that's not going to be a possibility. Ult's there for Speedo if they want to pull the Kazakhs in. Concept.
Leap was used. Yep, he's going to use that counter strike, see what he'll be able to do. Gets a good stun onto Link. Link does not have flash to be able to follow up, and it will be a ward hop to get away for Concept in the top lane.
A forced flash, it's not the biggest of deal in the entire world, especially because Speedo doesn't have flash, and when he's got like the Q to be able to utilize some of that mobility, it's not a huge deal. The big thing is it actually revealed the position on the map for Link, who has 3 kills, which it could have been actually pretty valuable. Oh, you're being cheated.
Yeah, just go ahead and kick him back in there, see what you can do, fight your way out of this. No flash for Speedo, and that's an easy kill pickup for Cope.
Goodness gracious, they put on pressure into topside. Link then immediately leaves. They got to see where he was, ended up backing, and then they attack topside. That's opening up Concept, but it's also opening up Rift Herald. Again, this neutral objective control being given over by the side of Dream. It's an immediate cross from Link. He went to bottom side trying to clear some camps. Now has to go contest Rift Herald with no assistance. Speedo has TP, so they could try to come in with that, but Captain Shrimps is already moving against Darkwings, is able to kind of move a lot faster. The one deficit is that Concept took some damage before he ended up going down, didn't have that back timing. So right here, Sheedan is trying to make sure that this Rift Herald at minimum is just like not going to be taken, as his bot lane is the first one here as well.
Yeah, this has gone on for so very long. It looks like Concept trying to go ahead and see if they can catch out Speedo. They're going to be effective at doing just that, as it is Blue Skies following him away. While the Equalizer gets laid out into the pit here, Shrimp is going to have to try and make a swift retreat, reposition himself as Duo King, gets chunked down heavily. Now it's the rest of the squad looking to bear down on the remaining members of Dream. in the bottom part of this river, and it is not going to be anything Dream is going to be able to do with this. They still have the Herald here, but it will reset.
That it will. It was
Oh.
interesting. Okay, Concept, I was hoping he didn't stay too long because he was sitting on that ward for a little while. This is, again, Cope, they played their hand there. It forced Link to make a movement, and then they pull a couple of kills off the board, which is good for them. Losing the Rift Herald isn't that big of a deal because, again, as long as your gold stays relevant alongside the other team, if this dragon stacking continues, you can always try to apply these big AoE ultimates. Right there, Moonlight Vigil got used, it missed the Camille, and it ended up not really mattering that it like wouldn't hit because the Camille ended up dying anyhow. If you hold that as Blue Skies and then you use that into the team fight that was occurring around that Rift Herald, that turns into something completely different, and you can see the kind of difference maker that has when you're fighting some of these corridors very, very quickly. The use of the Rift Herald here also immediately to get Speedo some gold, trying to save this Camille from this Jax matchup. Both teams not wanting to be on the losing end of this kind of one member that could be used as a split pusher into the later stages of the game. So consistently you're seeing resources flow up here, even if not all at once. Little by little, they're trickling up here, just trying to make sure that this matchup doesn't feel too bad for one or the other.
I really love this as well, but here we got Darkwings actually getting very aggressive. Nice trade and nice use of the Yoinked Alistair ult there to make sure that he didn't take any damage in the trade bag. Zyko there in the wings as well. And honestly, this Leona has been all over the map. I do want to highlight that as well. We talked a lot about Link, but this Leona has been making sure to try and blind every member of Cope when possible.
It's quite nice. Again, it's really difficult to try to fight up against the Flash, the Exhaust Cassiopeia as like the Alistar and the Aphelios in the earlier stages. The damage isn't quite there, and so that means that Zyko has been freed up to make impacts across the map. I have to, like I said, you're giving props to him. I got to give props as well to Zyko and his ability to help out and put on some pressure into the top side of the map as well. I got to give props to Darkwings as well. This could have been a rough laning phase for him to have to deal with. A little scrapping on top side, but again, it could have been really rough for this Sylas if you end up in this melee matchup and you don't really get going early, you can't absorb ganks, things of that sort, or you let Cap and Shrimps just kind of run the laning phase against the side of you. But here, it's Darkwings who's had a really big impact. He's able to match a fair amount of the pressure that Captain Shrimps has been putting out, and that means when the team fighting comes around, again, getting able to match that equalizer, all these other things, super helpful for his squad.
It feels like Darkwings is kind of coming back into the fold of like the expectations going into this UPL season, where you saw him inside of Proving Grounds and everybody was just like, Darkwings is phenomenal. He's such a great mid lane talent here inside the amateur scene, and hasn't really been able to find that spark, hasn't really been able to find it. With this team, some of the resources are pulling together here inside of game number 1 so far, and you're seeing it. Everything is going pretty well for them inside of this mid-jungle duo. Have to see if this continues. Dragon is spawning, and we already see the members are moving around the map for it.
Biggest thing for the side of AoE Cope is that their ultimates, they're super valuable. When you've got these ultimates up, it's really difficult for the side of AoE Dream to really contest the 5-on-5 fight as long as like they can hit these ultimates, right? If you start wasting them ahead of time, things become problematic. But if they're not wasted, good deal.
Yeah, he's stuck in a very poisonous situation here. The Equalizer will get laid out. He's going to be able to eat up a lot of that HP. Darkwings didn't get the jump over the wall. I saw that. So no further answer coming back from the squad of Dream.
Yeah, respect right there. Darkwing's covering to make sure even if he dies that you're not going to lose anything else. There's still coverage, of course, for his ADC on bottom side, so it's not like, unless they pull all 4 members into bottom side as well, it's unlikely they end up going for a dive on the top of that. And because of the use of the Equalizer, Captain Shrimps right there helping out his support, making sure he's not going to go down. They are still on bottom side, but Sheedan's still here with Duo King, with Blue Skies. Everybody's still here. They can't really force this as much as they would like, given that the ultimate's still up. The Dragon range is still available. Duo King has to be their target almost certainly, but I don't think that they can actually make this happen.
This is very risky. The fact they're staying around for this, they just saw the Alistar ult get Yoink. TP is coming out. Darkwing's just going to be able to eviscerate Duo King's HP, and it's just 2 kills going off the table quickly. Darkwing now under the tower, getting jumped on too further, but there's so much healing. There's so much survivability. Concept is the difference maker here. They're able to find 2 kills. Now it is a 2v2 as the numbers are even, and the counter strike comes in. Is Darkwings getting dropped down critically low? Link as well. Equalizer, it's already back up, but it doesn't matter as Darkwings is getting the kill. Link finds the Jats, and it's Dream that stays up ahead.
I really thought that was going to be far more dangerous for the side of Dreams, but they executed it almost perfectly. They let Darkwings, with this Alistar ultimate, start the tanking process. They were able to bring down members very, very quickly. Started with Duo King. The rest of them focused into immediately the side of Blue Skies. Didn't allow for any time for that setup to actually come through. They got it executed before the TP ended up coming in, and because of how quick and how fast they were, not only did they make the bottom side dive work, but they ended up with 4 or 5 kills in their back pocket, but they also were able to get Speedo some kills on the top side against the tower, put some more gold into the back pocket of this Dreams roster. Again, it was a risky maneuver. It could have gone south, but extremely good execution, meaning that Dreams take a very vast lead in this one.
Dreams are looking on top of their game at this current moment in time and really making things work. You can even see here on the gold, look at the difference between the jungle right now. Link has been just absolutely monstrous inside this game.
He was not sitting whatsoever. He wasn't caught off guard whatsoever. He wanted to fight at all times during this game. He wasn't going to let Sheedan attack top and then accomplish nothing. He's been in a couple of places. He's been attacking Sheedan. He's been getting Darkwings into a good place. And off the back of all of that, they've been able to find a place on the map. Again, their bottom side was always going to be strong with the combination of the Leona and the Cassiopeia. They've been able to use Zyko across the map effectively. Their combination of their jungle down across this map and allowing Speedo to kind of play this weak side has gone well. They haven't superpowered this Jax to just completely unacceptable levels in this one-on-one against Speedo, which is what allows him to continue contesting. And this Camille's always going to be a threat in the side lane if you leave her alone, like you just saw right there on the back end of that skirmish. So right here, Dreams, they're finding the right place to strike. They're finding the right use of their composition.
That was a very aggressive move coming out from Shrimps, looking to see if he could get out of harm's way. Didn't want to get jumped onto that. That's going to be a lot of damage coming on through. Moonlight Vigil was used. Sketch is going to find himself dropping, not able to buy enough time and separate Blue Skies from the rest of the squad. Now it is the 1v1 tango, but Darkwings is here as the cavalry has to leave Aphelios out to dry, and Duo King will be able to survive a 1-for-1 in the bottom.
Yep, you're just getting to have Darkwings. They're trading for the Rift Herald on the other side of the map. The Rift Herald isn't going to be able to help close this gap whatsoever. You've got the bottom tower kind of brought down a little bit. You got top tower brought down a little bit as well from the side of Cope. But you're going to take that on bottom side, I think, most of the time, just because you did end up with a kill onto Darkwings. He's also going to respond potentially with a tower if he's able to take this entire bot side. So if this tower does go down, which it looks like it's going to, looks like no one's going to be able to respond to it, you basically traded the entire bot tower for the Rift Herald, which isn't a necessarily guaranteed tower. And then on top of all that, you ended up with the 1-for-1 in the kills count, where your Silas is actually getting stronger and stronger. This is a solid trade for Dreams, who are continuing to find strikes that are going well for them across the map here in this mid game.
Looking phenomenal for them. The core members looking alive and focused. Of course, Cope does have that Jax win condition that's sitting over there on the side, the looming boss that eventually Dream does have to figure out how to end up dealing with this thing. So Dream now moving around, and I like this from them. Third Dragon is coming up, and they're positioned to take that quickly and swiftly.
Yeah, Dream has been able to turn this into an advantage in terms of gold, 3,000 in their favor, and so now, when they've got pressure on the bottom side of the map, they feel comfortable kind of controlling the entryways to this bottom side, making sure that the Dragon is going to be something that they can now pressure on the side of AoE Cope. Now, with 2 Dragons that were taken immediately, it does mean... Okay, Cleanse Burn. It does mean that eventually the control of these, like, Dragon Pits, it's going to buy enough time for these AoE kind of ultimates to really start to up their deck this next, what would be 15 minutes, or 10 minutes, I guess, until somebody has to make a move and contest the other one on their next Dragon. So that's what I guess Cope is going for here. They've got this Jax to set up the split push. They've got their scaling that's like, they've gotten it at least jumped to a point where this damage is going to be high enough in the right situation, and all they have to do is put more into it to make sure this AoE is going to be threatening for fights around what would be the Dragon, Soul, the Baron that are going to be coming up from here on out.
Herald getting dropped inside the mid lane. I also want to bring up the fact that we do have an interesting build, but it looks like I'm going to have to put that conversation on pause. It is Duo King that is getting jumped onto. Herald will be able to grab this mid tower. While this is all happening, Jax is looking to fight out with Speedo. Headstack ultimatum has been laid out, and there's no counter-strike that is available. The Miasma is there to follow up. Speedo finds skill on the concept. Now it's going to be the re-engage coming on through as Darkwing's trying to see if they'll be able to find the flank. That's going to be possible. They take out Shaden as he is going to go down. Now it's Link looking to continue pressing forward. Use the flash to catch up. Blue Sky's caught out, and that is another kill to this Kha'Zix, as now Baron on the table just in time for Dream to be able to capitalize.
Cope has not been able to set up what is kind of the win condition for their team, which is one big combination ultimates team fight, where you've got the Moonlight Vigil with the Equalizer, with an Alistar for CC on top of all of it, and because of that, like they're just getting picked apart. It's moment by moment that Dream is able to find a couple of plays in response to what it is that Cope's been able to do, and that is now culminated into a play that has given themselves the Baron. They've got this situation now where your split pusher is not going to be in a good position, even if the Jax has the gold advantage over the Camille. You're going to be able to come back from that. Link is insanely powerful. He's going to be able to take most members in a one-on-one, if not more members in a one-on-one. Darkwings is approaching that moment, and now you're on 2.5 items for sketch streams as well. This team fight isn't super easy for the side of Cope unless they perfectly land their ultimates as combination, and even worse, they can't flex the dragon advantage. Yes, they've got two, but that is not the timer that they would be looking for. Dream are able to flex this individual player by player kind of advantage in terms of gold that they've got into what is now map control pretty much everywhere. When these outer towers start getting broken, when this gold starts flowing in their favor with this Baron buff, things are going to get really bad for Cope.
I mean, honestly, I love the way Darkwings is playing the Silas, man. I feel like that's something big. He has been just charging forward, making sure to try and root somebody up and use that as the setup for the squad to continue and press the advantage. And he has been taking this, he hasn't been taking Equalizer, man. He hasn't been yoinking that. He has been making sure that he is unbreakable by yoinking this Alistar ult, and has been just really just absurdly tanky with the amount of healing he's doing in these fights.
I mean, you've got two ultimates between the Jax and also the Alistar that are capable of, you know, Alistar's of cleansing CC, percentage, just damage reduction. Jax's does just like a bunch of armor stacking and magic resist stacking, essentially the same, a little different, but you've got two tankiness ones, and then you've got that massive damage, and he's able to respond to concept relatively easily. You'll see this one-on-one now.
Just the absolutely devastating HP concept. Doesn't have any hope of getting out of here, as he's going to be able to get this done, but Darkwings, he is relentless.
He's too strong. They put resources into Darkwings early. The expectation when you draft Captain Shrimp's kind of rumble is not that it's going to lose the laning phase. It's usually that he's going to be up some CS and he's going to have impact across the map. Here, Link put all this pressure, making sure that that was not going to be the case, making sure that this melee champion wasn't going to get outpushed, wasn't going to get outroamed, and was going to have everything that you needed. And when that started to apply to teamfights, when Darkwing started getting involved everywhere, all of a sudden is when this map started breaking to pieces. Yes, Link has 6 kills. He, alongside Darkwings, and their interaction on this map, especially over the last like 8 to 10 minutes, has really been what has completely shifted this game inside of Dreams.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you look at the item differences too, right? It is all in the favor of Dreams, and really and truly, we haven't gotten to see Shrimp make use of this Rift Maker that he decided to buy for themselves, and that makes it into an even more interesting spot, as we haven't really got to see the big possible AOE team fight that could possibly come out. It has been all Dream dictating how the flow of the game should go.
And it is up to the side of Cope, I suppose, to when they want to try to enact that, because you've got dragons for the next few minutes, and you know that Dream is going to want to keep stacking dragons, because they have no reason to give them over to the side of Cope and potentially give up what would be a Mountain Soul win condition that could help them out in some of the fights to, you know, just survive longer. So they're not going to give that away. They're not going to let the side of Cope walk into the jungle, attempt to take the dragon away. Dream instead is just going to walk in, they're going to put everybody away, they're going to make sure that's not going to be the case.
Yeah, check this out. TP being used over here to the top side. Darkwings is taking a good amount of damage. A beautiful use of that Hourglass Speedo. Comes in the nick of time and gets the kill finalized onto this Jats. But now, Dragon getting jumped upon. Link is not there in the area. He's looking to see if he can get into the pit. No! No steal to happen here, as Duo King is trying to see what he'll have available for themselves. A TP behind. Darkwings is looking to play that flame. Beautiful Dragon Rage kick, followed up by a Petrifying Gaze. Shrimp is taken out. Alistar, Link has some beef with you, and that is Duo King getting dropped. Blue Skies now being pursued by Speedo. And this is not going to be a pretty end for him, as that is a killing spree for this Camille.
and almost certainly the base broken. I was a little skeptical at first with the play that had happened because they decided to cover for Darkwings with multiple members, and because of that, they only had 2 on the Dragon to start with. They ended up losing it to Shiden, and again, I'm like, okay, if this fight ends up stopping, if nothing else happens, you're okay trading the 1 member of your team for the 3rd Dragon, buying yourself more time. But because of everything else that happened, the additional TP that came in, the fight afterwards, multiple members going down, now the base getting broken, that's Cope who's not going to be, like they wanted to give themselves 5 more minutes. They don't think they actually have 5 more minutes inside of this game to make something shake, to change it so that they can compete in some fashion. They have to get this team fight in a good place. The Baron is going to be up in a minute. I have to imagine that at some point, that's going to be flexed by Dream forcing a move out of KOE Cope, and if they don't win that situation, the game is likely over for them because of what had just happened.
They do have themselves in a nice situation where Soul is possibly on the table for Cope, right? Like, this is a squad that do have some options available to them with them getting that 3rd Dragon, and now Dream might be looking to try and make sure they don't let them have that situation as Duo King. You can't just walk in the bushes like that. This map doesn't belong to you. Has to go ahead and blow that ult, cleanse some of that CC off his palette, and this Baron pit is in complete control of Dream.
That it is. With the kind of ambient push that's going to come about from Dream on bottom side, they can move what is now 4 members and eventually will be 5 members in through mid lane to get mid push, and then into the jungle to make sure that they've got some pressure to put in some vision, especially
joking!
They're
He
going for a fight
flashed forward!
now.
They're looking to continue this on forward. The Equalizer is going to be able to hit onto 3 members nicely, but it's not going to be able to amount to that much damage, as Darkwings is going to be there baiting away, as the Lee Sin is going to be the first person that's going to be looking to fall. As the Ignite is ticking away, Darkwings going to be able to find the kill onto the affiliate. Speedo going on to a rampage as the rest of Cope is being completely routed. It looked so good to start, but the ending is disastrous as Cope is going to find themselves falling, and this is surely going to be the end of the game. It seems as hourglasses are being used.
It's a situation that we find ourselves in as a forfeit actually comes out. Dreams came out, right? They put themselves in a situation where they could have actually been ulted. They could have lost that team fight, but they're up 10,000 gold. Even when you land a decent equalizer, when you land a Moonlight Vigil that hits a couple of targets, neither one of them was like perfect, but like that could have been enough if they were closer in gold. That didn't barely scratch the surface of this team's health bars. Not even close. Cope was relying on that combination to help carry them through the game. I liked that they went for the Dragon stacking to begin with. They had a good game plan in saying, okay, Jax is going to receive a bunch of resources, but they never were able to fix mid lane. They never were able to kind of deny Link a bunch of pressure. And when bottom side started to collapse and you started trying to patchwork bottom side, everything fell to pieces because there was no stopping Darkwings. There was no stopping the rest of this map from just completely falling in the favor of Dreams. Dreams, patient, found the right moment to strike with a combination of this Cosmic Silas. Man, good stuff from them. Game number 1, trying to upset the number 1 seed in this group. They've started off on a good foot.
Yeah, I would say that's exactly the way you want to start off an upset, right? You want to go ahead and pick up the first dub inside of this best of 3 here. But that being said, this war has gotten to be quite a bit more interesting here, as, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take ourselves a short break, and when we come back, our disc is going to get us prepared to go into game number 2. So do not touch that browser, as we will be right back.
Olipop is delicious. 7 different flavors to choose from. Usually when someone says it's good for you, the big question is what does it taste like? Well, the ginger lemon tastes like ginger ale with lemonade added to it. Olipop. The strawberry vanilla tastes like strawberry shortcake in a can. It's like dessert for after dinner, during dinner. Olipop. Don't just take my word for it. Head over to drinkolipop.com and pick out your favorite flavor.
noticed? I drink a lot of sodas when I'm gaming. Might as well drink something that's good for me. Head over to drinkolipop.com and order your favorite flavor.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the desk yet again. Ravishing Graphics, joined here by Destructs and Sir Pater here. We just witnessed what I can only describe as video games. And I believe realistically, people put their hands to the keyboard, moved around their mouse, and a result was expected. Destructs, what did you think of the video game specifically? League of Legends.
That was a pretty interesting one to see unfold. I use the word interesting a lot, but it's mostly me just being like, wait, did Cope get slaughtered? And that is basically what happened in that matchup. Cope had a very hard time. They did put a lot of attention towards that first pick that we saw of Dream, which was Camille. They put a lot of attention over there. It's getting dark over there, baby. What's going on, man? It's Halloween, dude.
I don't know what's going on, actually.
Are you being shut down, Peter? Is that what's happening?
I don't know. Unironically, don't know.
Guys, Peter's been nocturne ulted. Somebody save him. Give him a QSS.
Jesus.
But yeah. They put up a lot of attention over towards the top lane and trying to really bring it to Speedo, and they did. Speedo had a terrible early game, and you had what looked like a lot of potential for the top lane for Cope's side, but then what kind of got to me was the questionable choices that was coming out of Cope. A lot of these team fights were their engages that Dreams were able to capitalize on just because they had that short range comp that works really well if you fight into it. And on top of that, some just really weird itemization. I want Pater to talk about this more, because you were having like a breakdown mid-game with all these black cleavers being built.
Yeah, so Black Cleaver isn't necessarily a terrible item on its own, but that game specifically, it's not great, especially on Kha'Zix. It does give him some stats that he does want, but it doesn't actually amp anyone else up. Camille is primarily 2 damage under a second Q. She does have a good chunk of physical, but a lot of her damage will be the true damage, so it doesn't help there. And then she has AP mid, AP bot, and so it's not really helping anyone out. So maybe if you wanted to get some Arm Pen, look to go Grudge, or if you wanted to continue going tankier, you got some other options.
Oh, no. We're talking about the Jax, Pater.
Yeah,
we're
let me
talking
get
about the Jax.
Let me get to that one. So
say it.
So the way that they win that game is through sidelinning. It becomes really hard while they are behind to actually get first setups, and when they don't get first setups, it's really hard to actually walk into red side team comp. So essentially, he had to kind of commit to split pushing, commit to maybe even a Bork, maybe some sort of side lane build, just not Black Cleaver, which would have been better for team fights, but doesn't win them the game that way. And so he's not really thinking about what his champ needs to do to win the game, more of how does it work in a specific fight. And that's kind of just a mindset problem.
I mean, to be fair, I remember we were debating a little bit about what was a possibility. I was thinking even an Anathema's, just a Hollow Breaker especially would have been really nice. I would rather him build Ludens than he go on for the Black Cleaver, bro. At least I think his Counter-Strike has some AP on it, bro. But just things that would have helped him win the game better. But hey, man, I'm not as good as you are. Your players are a lot better than I am. So I'll give that over to y'all, right? It's y'all know what you do. Nonetheless, though, there's still only game number 1. Right, we still do have a lot more game to go. It's personally, in my opinion, here, guys. Look, here's my take on this. Now, hear me out. I don't expect it to say something stupid, but I think if all 5 players eventually got together to play the video game how it was most optimized, then they could all video game correctly, and then at the end of it, be able to win the game on the video format. That being said, here, gentlemen, I believe we are about time to really go ahead and throw to our casters within the next couple of seconds. So Rebel Fox and Travesty, y'all let me know. Do you enjoy the video game? Back to you.
This got really philosophical, and I'm really confused about my life decisions now. Do I enjoy the video games? Rebel?
I don't know how to respond to people when they get philosophical. I've never heard Ravish say anything like that in my entire life.
I know, this is what's so shocking.
I think I can say with impunity that why are the video games? That's my response to your question. I think that's the correct philosophical decision here.
Well, philosophy of wartime is a brewing, apparently, as we continue to see these two teams go into battle here. Game number 2 here. We did get to see Dream, like the desk was talking about, have a very, very fantastic game for themselves here to start off this series. Cope is the number 1 seed inside of this group, so keeping our eyes posted to see if they're going to be able to adapt and evolve to what Dream has been bringing to the table.
Again, walking into this one, it was interesting because if you just look at these rosters kind of on paper, your expectation for what it is that Dream can do is really high. Given that again, this was AOE's main roster with like Speedo and Link stepping in for the top of the jungle role, and Cope has players that are very good. Don't get me wrong, but like again, you look at these on paper, you think potentially Dreams is just a better squad. So walking into this week, knowing that Cope was 3-0 and the Dreams kind of got assembled more recently, so like the record maybe doesn't reflect exactly what you're thinking. That first game was really good for Dreams, really, really impressive. So this to me becomes a testament of how good is Cope. How good has Cope been? Is it like Dreams now having figured everything out, being the number 1 competitor for the group, or is Cope really as good as we think that they are, really deserving of this number 1 spot inside of this group now that the full roster has been assembled for Dream?
Like, honestly, what a statement it would be for Dream 2, especially like you were talking about on paper. You look at it, go ahead and take out the number 1 seed inside of your group here halfway through the season. That sets you up nice and pretty, as a lot of these teams are going to start looking at the playoff picture. So, Brand, it's going to be over on AOE Dream side to really show themselves up and show everybody, hey, the expectations going into the beginning of the seasons, they are a reality.
They are. It looks like we might have had a movement also where one is stepping into the. Okay, that's Blue's guy. All right, yeah, all right, that's the same person. I just wanted to make sure that was the case from our producer because I don't like when people change names on us in the midst of everything because it does happen from time to time. I've had players literally swap their name in the middle of the series, which is the most frustrating thing in the entire world. But thankfully, we're not having any worry actually come out here. That is just the same player with a slightly different name associated with that account. So nothing worried here. We're seeing bans similar to what we saw in the previous game. This time, AOE, Cope, they're going to be on the red side. They have the option to now flex a bit more of Shrimp's pool. They've got Concept's pool to flex at least a little bit more. Maybe Duo King's pool to flex a little bit more. I feel like this is much more comfortable for this squad.
I agree. When we talk about it, we were saying like, yo, they got an ocean. This ocean is across the entire squad here. And counter picks are definitely in their favor when you have so much variety to pick from. Don't want to get lost in the sauce, of course. I am curious if Dream would just adapt to a similar strategy. Pick some of these solo lanes right off the get-go and play around the answers that Cope tries to throw at him.
And I wonder if now with the Rise ban, if there's a setup for the LeBlanc that's coming in for Shrimps, just so that he can try to grab something that was banned away, I believe, in the previous game. The other thing is, of course, the Twisted Fate, because Rise has both the semi-global to match, as well as like really good scaling, better wave clear, at least wave clear that competes very heavily with what Twisted Fate can do. And this is another one of those Shrimps champions that kind of is in that back pocket. You think of like the Rumble's number 1, Twisted Fate is there. Fizz is the third one that comes to my mind because I see him play Fizz and not a lot of other people play Fizz. So that's at least another one in the back pocket. But here it's Dream that reads Twisted Fate as being the play rather than anything else. No LeBlanc ban to go against the side of Shrimps this time as they're reading that Twisted Fate more likely to have that impact across the bat that we're accustomed to Shrimps having, something that was missing primarily from the previous game.
Yeah, he's going to have to pull a different card out of his sleeve this time around as we are going into the first pick. And now it is on Dreams. What do you end up first picking? The Camille off the table. You do have Leona still if you're still wanting to opt into that. But Graves, the champion that was banned, could be very curious. See if that gets locked in for Link.
Not just for Link, but Speedo as well. It's a very powerful top lane champion when it comes to exactly what happens. No Tryndamere off the board yet either, and you think that both Shrimps and Darkwings have the capability of grabbing that one up if it's going to be available for one of the two of them. So here, the potential flex of the Graves between jungle, I actually am favoring it more in top lane. I think it's just better in top lane. There's not a lot of champions that are capable of putting a bunch of damage into it very, very easily across the board, so that's at least something you consider is the flexibility of what that champion brings, how powerful it could be for Speedo to just kind of neutralize concept on top side with this ranged champion.
I don't believe that Fiddlesticks is getting locked in. Playing with my heart. That's a Lee Sin. Makes sense. That makes a lot more sense. It wasn't a bad performance last time around. So see what they paired together with is the blind jungler.
We'll see. Again, this time now, if you're running Graves, okay, this would be interesting at least because now you've got Lisa and Leona. This is taking that away from the likes of Zyko, who had a very good performance on it in just the previous game. So Duo King showing a bit of adaptation, saying, okay, we're not going to give this one over. Zyko's not going to have this comfort, not going to have this map-wide ability to move about nearly as much. And it also kind of locks away any kind of stalling picks because now if you go for something like what would be Cassiopeia, like something that would be able to sit on its own in the laning phase, it's a little easier for Leona to get onto that than the majority of engaged type champions. You think of like, can Thresh do it if you hit a good hook, Marla, a good hook, things like that. But Leona can fish with that ultimate. Leona can flash E, make problems for most champions, barring Ezreal, but like that's pretty much the only thing. So if Sketch wants to take it, you absolutely can here. But outside of that, if you want something else, this would be the play. They go for the Braum to counteract what the Leona is going to do inside of the laning phase. So if we see Duo King go for more laning type things, that's what the Braum is kind of for. So now I think the challenge is up to Duo King to move out and about, try to help out this Lee Sin here for AoE cope.
Yeah, I want to see a similar secondary jungle performance coming out from Duo King. Stayed in lane and didn't get to pay off too terribly much with any kind of lane advantages or anything like that. So, see Duo King on the map will be very nice to see. Is Aphelios locked in as well? So we do see Aphelios Braum be in the bot lane coming out from Dream's squad over here on the blue side. Now, Cope, you have your final pick before we go into the second ban phase. What are you thinking?
See, this is actually really interesting because you've got your jungler and you've got something that may be comfortable against the likes of the Graves just because of how early that you can find aggression with this Lee Sin, but you have no idea if this Graves is going to be flexed into a solo lane, and you're not going to know for an entire extra pick of this draft. So, okay, Kai'Sa was interesting because it's like, okay, you can go for more dive. This is even more interesting because this is something that can set up once again. It's a solo lane type setup this time for Blue Skies, who's got this roaming champion of Leona potentially to attack the remainder of the map. And you can play aggressively with it. If you can chain together the CC of Leona with like the traps, going for combos against the Aphelios, you've got a lot of range, you've got a lot of wave clear to work with, especially if you go for a bit more lethality. It's an interesting bot lane setup that's got a bunch of siege potential that can be used from the side of AoE Cope to really put pressure onto the bottom side. This is the winning setup that I think they wanted to have in the previous game, but they kind of lost it against that Cassiopeia.
Yeah, watch out. That bakery that Caitlyn is looking to open up is deceptively delicious and also very painful as an end result, seeing as the next couple picks do come out. And I'm expecting a lot of these bans to focus on these solo laners here, as that is where the mystery lies.
Mid laners on both sides. It's the least likely probably that Graves is going to be going into the mid lane, and there is no mid laner locked for Cope, and that's probably what they're going to be saving for last, unless they really want to hide something and they want to go for like a flexible like mid and jungler that could go into either lane potentially for both Concept and Shrimps, which would be interesting at least to think about. So that's why you're seeing a lot of mid lane champions just get taken off the board here. Silas removed from Darkwing's pool. Tryndamere, another one where it's to me that screams almost like a Captain Shrimps champion. I'm really surprised he doesn't have Tryndamere in the pool somewhere, but not going to have that one in his back pocket to go with, and it should be another mid lane ban unless they've got something very specific they want taken out from Concept. Again, the idea of like the Wukong and the Malphite are the two that have stuck out previously. The Aurelia is a bit more of like kind of the general comfort pick. It could be flexed between top and mid if you needed to, even though it's much more of a mid laner, but it's another really powerful pick that they want taken off the board. Oh, all right. They're going to
go. Take away to Orianna. This is very interesting because Shrimps, like you were talking about, has that Champion Ocean. Has like a mix of mid laners and top laners that are inside the champion pool. So curiosity will beg to an answer on, is this going to be mid or are they going to show their hand in top side already?
Funny enough, like when I think of what Shrimp's pool usually is going to be, especially when it comes to like setting up like picks like this, the Gallia doesn't always come to mind. The big one to me is like weirder stuff, and so like Orianna and Syndra feel more like Darkwing's bands because he plays that stuff. Whereas like the Silas, the Tryndamere, those feel like things that Darkwings or Shrimps could play. So it feels like the pool of Darkwings got pinched a lot more. I like this. It's a lot more siege potential. The range of the Caitlyn and the Zoe, the combination of those two champions, and the lack of interaction that you can have with those two in the wrong situation can be very difficult to deal with.
Oh, lock it in.
I don't see. I don't want it locked in. I don't want that locked in. Okay.
Look, I'm
a
calling the
little
bluff,
better.
all right, Rebel? You gotta call it
Yeah,
from time to
I
time.
mean, you're gonna pick a Darius into a Caitlyn, and you're gonna pick it into a Zoe. Like, he's just not going to touch anyone in this game. It's never gonna, unless you pull like a Lisa in or a Leona as they're going in for an 8 gauge. It's not gonna happen. This a lot better, at least in terms of sense. And this also, I think, indicates it could be Olaf top, it could be Graves top. Where we're waiting to see kind of the idea of what that's gonna be. All right, now it is unfortunate that. Oh, come on, don't mess with us like that. I was hoping it'd be the Ari so I could brag to Beatdown because he cast it yesterday. It's his favorite champions. We could have bragged about that, but instead the Karma comes out as another potential flex between mid and top. At least a little interesting to think about.
I am curious too. I mean, it does leave some possibilities. You've got some aggression coming out in the top side, no matter which way you look at it. And how does Cope respond to it? And they're going to respond to it with a Wukong pick of their own.
So the Malphite was hovered there for a second. You've got a couple of damage sources, and the Malphite can be upfront damage if you build a little bit of AP. I think Fudge did that at the World Tournament where he built like one singular AP item and then went into full tank from there, which isn't a terrible option when you're just like smashing your ultimate button and you get like 500 damage up front against multiple targets. The fear of that is if you put Malphite into this comp, you flex Graves somewhere else, or you put Graves mid lane, or you do something like that, and then you put like the Karma top, and then all of a sudden this Malphite is completely worthless because there's nothing that you're sandbagging. You're not sandbagging a Karma. She doesn't need gold in the first place. Maybe it's the fear, so instead they go for something a bit more like skill-to-skill matchup so that they can get something that Concept can win with rather than just like trying to sandbag a lane that could end up being ruined for them. I do imagine it's going to be the Karma with Graves top, and then the jungle is going to end up being the Olaf with this setup as like the generic setup. I don't even know if they would have flexed the Karma around, but that is the fear that could have come about if that Malphite got locked in. So here Concept goes back to his tried and true. He was one of the best Wukong players in the server for a little while, extremely well versed on this champion, and it's definitely one of his favorites. Happy to see it come out here for the side of Cope when they need it most.
I love the points that you're illustrating here is because the fact that I don't look at either one of these squads and say these are squads that are going to want to play safe, right? Like these are squads that are looking to take it. They have individual players that definitely want to be the people that take the fight to the other squad. And I want to see exactly how does the end result bear with that. Also, after a monstrous performance from Link in the last game on the Kha'Zits, I want to see how Link performs here inside the jungle matchup. I feel like there's a lot of people here who have got their eyes peeled on this jungler over on the Dream squad.
Yeah, it's Link's second game in a row now where he's played up against the Lee Sin, and he's had champions that are capable of taking that one-on-one early, but also capable of making some interaction across the map. Because, like, you think about what Kha'Zix can do, not the greatest of ganking champions, but really good when you put him inside of a fight in a one-on-one, two-on-two type situation where he can focus down individual targets. Olaf can do very similar things. You perma-slow somebody with the axe, you've got the Ragnarok to work with. Link has a bunch of the ability to help out his team. I feel like the lanes aren't the same setup they had in the previous, where they can snowball infinitely very quickly if you get them ahead, but it's another concept where now all of a sudden Link has to be some of the initial kind of damage that Dream is going to do to the side of Cope.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to find out our answer here. We'll see which one of these squads are going to be running wild here after a short little ad break, and we'll be right with the game, so do not touch that browser.
Olipop is delicious. 7 different flavors to choose from. Usually when someone says it's good for you, the big question is what does it taste like? Well, the ginger lemon tastes like ginger ale with lemonade added to it. Olipop. The strawberry vanilla tastes like strawberry shortcake in a can. It's like dessert for after dinner, during dinner. Olipop. Don't just take my word for it. Head over to drinkolipop.com and pick out your favorite flavor.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we are going into the second game inside of this best of 3 with Dream taking the first game inside this series. They're currently at match point as we are hitting the rift and seeing a different startup this time around with Psycho up here in the top lane.
A little bit. Now, if we get interaction between these two, things get a lot more interesting because all of a sudden you have a ranged champion with concussive blows from the Braum, the potential slow from the Q. If Concept doesn't start W, things get a little bit tumultuous. So Concept not going to try that, doesn't want to interact with the Graves. He's got fleet footwork, so like it doesn't even matter if you get good trade damage. It's just going to be gone in a matter of seconds. So I can respect that Concept's just going to pull back a little bit. Instead, just making sure there's no kind of wraparound top side, making sure Speedo is going to feel fine, not going to go down into any early nonsense that could come about from the side of Cope.
Is looking to see what they can do. By the way, Cherry Lambo over here coming through. Interesting to see exactly what could possibly be a result here, as this is a Link on a different name now, it seems.
I told you, players swap their names literally between games, man.
Why?
I don't. They like to make our job more difficult. That's what's gonna happen.
Like, we understand it's the same guy. It's just so funny to see it, just a different account name.
It's a cool
through,
name
is
too.
Link
Like
still.
Cherry Lambo's a cool name. Like
It really is,
I would have
right?
stolen it from him if I had known. But like, actually.
Something to be worried about here. Blue Sky is getting aggressed onto concussive blows. He is going to be finished up. Blue Sky's taking too much damage there early on.
Interesting. So this was like a testament purely to what happens in the support to support matchup, because in most matchups, Aphelios isn't going to feel that good because he doesn't have an ability at level 1. But right here, you've got a Braum with the concussive blows with the Q that come out, and that means that like pressure gets put onto Blue Skies to just shove him out of lane immediately, and it forces Flash in exchange for Cleanse and Ignite. This becomes interesting. Caitlyn's got a lot of range, and she has enough protection as long as Leona's around her. Getting on top of her for the Braum with a flash isn't going to be, like, impossible to do either, but it's still a matter of, like, okay, how exactly does Aphelios follow up on the aggression of a Braum? And so, in the end, I actually think that burning the flash isn't as bad for the Caitlyn as losing the double summoner here for the side of Dream's bot lane in the long run.
Well, also someone else that's not very effective is taking a shotgun to the face as Wukong, but does have the Lee Sin here, looking to lay out that aggression on the Speedo.
No!
Catches him on the flash here. It will be a trade of kills, but it's first blood. Cherry Lambo in hot pursuit of concept to finish him off as well. The clone's there to deceive him, but he will be discovered. That is another kill, and it is 2 kills for Dream now.
I really thought right there that it was going to be a solid getaway. Speedo, when he flashed and the Q came through, I was really worried that he was just going to get one shot and then it was going to be an immediate escape. But Sheedon had to trade his life, ended up tanking the tower and saved one last shot, making sure that Concept was going to die on the way out too. Pretty well played, honestly. If Speedo had dodged out the Q with the flash, that situation probably wouldn't have evolved the way that it did, all outside of like Olaf ending up showing up and a re-engage coming through, which would have given more counterplay potentially to the Wukong and the Lee Sin, who are both eventually mobile when they've got enough of the abilities to come back up. But so honestly, maybe the entire situation ended up being positive because Speedo flashed on top of the Q. I'm making an excuse maybe for the player, but I'm willing to die on the rock that like maybe that ended up better than you would have expected if he had dodged it, especially now because of Pilled by Olaf, you push the Lee Sin out, who didn't end up getting the kill, so that's more interaction that Link gets to have with the map, more power that he gets to have, and the double scuttle coming down for the Olaf. Much better start here for the side of Dream.
Yeah, and I mean, if there's one thing you want as Olaf, is you want to continue a snowbally advantage for yourself, your Concept, trying to get up close and personal with this Graves. Unfortunately, the shotgun is more effective at close range and finds himself on the losing end of that trade. As you can see on the Link, just trying to make sure to add some pressure into this mid lane.
Yeah, but once again playing through Dark Wings as much as possible, which is really intriguing because he's on the Karma. He was on the Silas last game, which is like, okay, that makes a lot of sense to try to put resources into. But now you're playing the Karma, which is even more interesting because it could be more damage setup. Yeah, this is a 3-person just like application of pressure at 2 topside. Concept knows that it's happening. They tell him that it's happening. He knows. He just has to leave. There's no way for them to compete against this Olaf in the earlier stages of the game. No way to beat a Karma Olaf in a 2-on-2 situation, let alone a 3-on-3 where you've got a Graves who can avoid damage. Like, this topside, oppressive beyond belief for the side of Dream. Once again, playing into what is supposed to be the strong part of the Cope's lineup, where you've got Concept, you've got Captain Shrimps, you've got Sheedon, all of which are very well-versed players inside of the scene. And it's been Dream who's been taking an attack to that topside instead of trying to play through their bottom lane.
I'll be honest, I want to see more of this, though, for the fact of Link wanting to more necessarily get Dark Wings out of the laning phase to assist him, right? Like, I feel like this is a game where it's less about, you know, you're on a Silas, you're on this champion that can really pop off, and it's more of like, yo, I'm on Olaf, I need you to speed me up, all right? I need to run through the enemy squad. So I want to see more of this, because very interesting to see them use this rotation to move around the map. Now with Dragon up, you see that all these back timers are starting to come out from these mid laners, seeing them getting back into their laning phase. I want to see if there will be any early action around these neutral objectives here, or if it will just be kind of a short going. As you can see, Olaf just getting his first back here.
That he is. Gonna spend a lot of money. Yeah, immediately gets the Iron
Mhm.
Spike whip. Okay, while we have a moment of downtime out. Okay, we don't.
Do we?
Have a moment of downtime.
Are you
There's
sure
action on
about
the bottom
that?
side,
As-
yeah. Nope. Oh, we're okay. We're okay. See, I was right
Yeah,
the
we're
entire
fine,
time.
we're
I knew
fine.
what was gonna happen. I knew what was gonna happen. You put an idea into my brain, which is like, you remember the old like funneling system where you had like the Taric mid lane with like what would be a Yi or any
Yes.
number of champions.
I-
Could you imagine
yes.
that in the modern day with like a Yumi who's able to somehow hold mid lane where you've got like any number of champions, you just attach a Yumi and you just lose the 2-on-2 situation? Like, that would be miserable if that would be optional.
Please, Rebel. I have seen enough Yumi at Worlds. I don't need to imagine any more Yumi in my lifetime.
Well, you put the
outside of
idea in my brain because you're like, oh, Karma mid who's just helping support the Olaf. I'm like, yeah, what if it was Yumi instead? Like, Olaf just takes all the mid farm. I'm like, wait, I just described funneling in my own brain. And this is happening. It's coming to fruition where Dark Wings is effectively just sticking on top of Link here. And they're putting a bunch of pressure into this this kind of lane, this jungle. We've got matchups elsewhere. kind of
Yeah,
taking effect as
Cyclone
well.
is coming through. Let it rip. Concept is going to find a solo kill onto Speedo.
So, I'm a little interested what the thought process was there, only because I think Speedo knew that he was doomed. It was very unlikely that he was going to get out of that situation. But he decided to take a fight on top of the clone who was also cycloning, so he's going to take more damage from that in the first place. And I'm just lost because it's like, okay, if you kite down, yes, somebody else might run into you. You know where the other jungler is because your team is fighting on the other side of the map. At least you have the one-on-one. You don't have to worry about Cyclone plus Q damage coming out from the additional clone that's on the ground. Yet, he kind of ran right back into it. It probably didn't make that much of a difference. He was probably just like, okay, if I can happen to sneak out or if the clone goes away, maybe I can leave fast enough. But, you know, from this point of view, at least knowing he probably was doomed, I almost would have preferred he tried to cut that out downward, looked for a fleet footwork proc, and tried to take a fight up against the individual one-on-one where Concept just gets a solo kill.
Interesting moves happening across the board here. We did see Dragging go off screen over to the squad of Dream. So they were able to secure that. And it looks like they're all a little bit of a interesting situation there. Sketch taking a little bit of hope. But check this out, man. Dream is getting Herald off of this as Blue Skies. He's fine. No worries.
Get poked out by a Braum. That's what's happening right there. Took like 200, 300 damage off that one.
That
Q
door
it come
hurts,
through.
man. I don't know if
really
you saw it.
does.
It weighs a lot.
It does a lot of damage right there. Again, this is similar to what we had seen last game. Cope got the first 2 dragons off the back of bot side pressure. I'm not sure how it is that they're just like pulling this much bot side pressure. Yes, they've got Aphelios Braum. Yes, there's a good combination between those two with like the attack speed, especially when you've got red white. Like that's fighting time. Red white, let's fight. That's the play. But like, it is a Caitlyn. There should be enough damage inside of this Caitlyn to be able to deal with, especially with the range that she's got with the Q. It should be more than enough. Yet somehow the Aphelios is able to pull quite a bit.
Ooh, nice cleanse to make sure that the Aphelios is going to stay out of harm's way. Waltz right back into a cupcake. Not exactly what you would want to plan there. As the trades come through, Zoe looking to roam down to the bot side, does get spot out on a ward, and no further action is looking to come about as it's just Cope forcing this bot lane
like
to
this.
retreat.
This was actually really good. While, yes, it did not net a kill, you burnt Cleanse, which is one thing. You burnt no summoners on your own right, and now you're keeping these two locked in this laning phase, where right now, the Caitlyn is less powerful than what the Aphelios is. Or right this second, Caitlyn's more powerful than the Aphelios because she has the whole Vamp Scepter and the Doran's Blade, so the completed like longsword item and the Doran's Blade over top of her counterpart. And they can't keep them here forever, but at minimum their wave isn't in a good place where like this back is not going to mean anything, because now the Caitlyn's going to be able to shove this, probably get a plate with the crits and everything comes out, and all things said and done, it ends up being like an additional plate into the back pocket of the Aphelios. But at minimum, if like the rebound comes out here and Sketch Streams and Zyko, they respond too quickly, you can see Sheedan's around to maybe force a gank if this like turret plate is stayed for, which is the one possibility that Cope could be working on. This is kind of what I wanted to see the Caitlyn be doing the entire time, is using this pushing power, getting these plates, and then transferring to other lanes where she can do the exact same thing all over again.
And that's the concept of grabbing the Sheriff down here into the bot side, but yet again, seeing Link is being troublesome inside the mid lane, getting the safe shove out for Dark Wings, and a ward will spot him out, so Cope, you know that they are coming. These guys, you need to be careful here, being a little bit dangerous. He is going to finally back up a bit.
Yeah, not going to get caught off guard here. You can see Blue Skies has been under such turmoil during this laning phase as actually a lower level than Duo King right now, because Duo King has been around for more minions than what it is the Blue Skies because of the number of backs that have been taken. This is going to be 2 more plates pushed in. I like this play from Dream. Again, they're putting resources into their bottom lane as well, making sure the Caitlyn isn't going to be able to get this siege up and running. 4 plates into your Aphelios feels amazing for team fighting, and it denies this Caitlyn, who again, it feels like a Ziggs, but like, I guess Ziggs is better at this only because you can like execute a tower with
Yeah,
a
you
W.
can satchel
push
it,
really
right?
well very quickly. Yeah, you can satchel. But Caitlyn's supposed to do similar things where like these crits do a bunch of chunk damage to towers. She's got range. She can set up like a little bunker with like the traps and everything else to come about. And the idea is that you bear down on this tower, you use this range advantage with your supports, and you apply all this pressure in the laning phase, and then you shift and do it top, and then you shift and do it mid, and you keep doing it over and over and over. And your team's supposed to pull Rift Herald potentially. You use that alongside all this sieging potential, but that's not going to be on board here for the side of Cope because of this pressure that's now been put into bot side. And no interaction across the map has meant that like Graves is farmed up. He's only a few minions ahead, maybe 1 wave ahead of what Concept is. So Concept feels fine. Now he's actually going to catch him out as well.
Yeah, go ahead, let it rip. Speedo is going to get tagged by that second half, and that is going to be his downfall, as he will find himself dropping. No other place for Dream to be able to find on the other side of the map at the current moment. And it's going to be a nice play for the side of Cope.
You can say that, 2 games in a row now, Speedo has been on what is effectively the weak side of the map. Concept hasn't absorbed as many resources, but still is up 3 kills right now over top of Speedo, which is something that you can hang your hat on. The rest of the map hasn't fallen apart nearly as much, because in the previous game you had like the 3 kills on your Kha'Zix, you had eventually the Sylas start to get in when they started fighting bot lane. Yes, you got a powerful bot lane, and you shut out the Caitlyn at least a little bit. Yes, you got this Olaf Karma, which is an insane combination in its own right that you can't really challenge for the next couple of minutes, especially with Moonstone just having been completed, and Gore Drinker, you're just not going to do enough damage. So here it's like, Dream is a bit more spread out in where their resources have been. There isn't that much in Link and in Dark Wings to be able to kind of apply to other places on the map. But this means that if they can put enough pressure on a bot lane, break that out, all of a sudden they've got this 4-man unit that can now start applying pressure in any lane whatsoever, which it looks like that's what they're trying to bank on now. It looks like finally Link and Sketch Dreams are going to force down this tower, start having interaction elsewhere on the map after their 2 dragons stack.
Got 2 dragons. You've been able to grab the first Herald. You grab first brick. Right now, Dream doing a lot of things that are making themselves feel pretty comfortable when it comes down to how they are controlling the map. And really, a lot of this early game has been about control. I mean, it's been remarkable. Both these squads have really been trying to do what they can to kind of control their own tempo into their favor. But it's really been Dream that's been able to find the better half of this.
They've been able to do really well, and especially shutting out what it is that Cope can do with this Caitlyn. Now that turret plates are gone, again, it's slightly less valuable to be able to have that no bonus gold to come about from taking the outer towers, which is what Caitlyn is supposed to thrive at doing. And so with those gone, it means like, you can see the amount of health that's on each of these towers. Bot tower was taken in its entirety here from the side of, what was Dream. Cope got a couple of plates here and there, but nothing so extensive that it's going to be a bunch of gold to match what was on the opposite side of the map. So, and now you're seeing even the swap come through. The Graves comes into bottom side. You're not too worried about the dragon stacking, or if you are, you're going to move multiple members there, since now you're starting to get into 3 dragon territory where maybe Cope feels comfortable to contest. So for the moment, at least, they're going to put their pressure on top side with their duo. They can use that to look for Rift Herald. They've got the Karma, who still has push in the mid lane with this Olaf. They're still very powerful, and you can see there is competition from Cope, but like their 4v4 should look pretty good.
Yeah, honestly, Cope being a little bit slow coming around to the side. We're seeing a little bit of a tango with Herald being inside the middle. Concept is looking for the play over here into the bat side. The Cyclone not going to be that effective, though, as the Ragnarok's going to keep him from being knocked up. This fight is completely on the back foot as Cope making a swift retreat. Moonlight Vigil not going to be able to take out the kill onto Concept. Not going to find the secure, and Herald surely going to be looking to go over Soul Flare. Now onto Duo King as Lee Sin goes into the back. It is trades going back and forth, but the HP bars still not a convincing story. Concept re-TPs back into this fight, looking to rejoin into the mid. No Cyclone available. Darkwing's flashing forward, trying to get the shield to Sketch. Immortal shield mode to duke it out, but a double kill to Concept to take it on home. Speedo barely gets the lid from the paddle star.
All right, insane fight to come out from both sides here. I can say Dream played the beginning portion of it very well. Eventually, it was Captain Shrimps who was able to kind of wear down this team and the health bars and everything else to come about. Still well played, top to bottom, and they're still in a very winning situation. Driving off concept as much as possible to begin the fight opened up the take of the Rift Herald, ended up getting multiple kills, especially like Graves being able to pick up some. Aphelios picked up a couple during the course of this fight. The big thing is concept wasn't shut down, and he picked up more kills, but pretty much all of your gold now is in the combination of this Wukong, and then also it is the Zoe in the mid lane that picked up a little bit of gold during this process. Whereas it's the Aphelios who got a bit. You still have competition, like you're down gold, but you're not down so much gold that it's just completely uncomparable between the likes of the Graves and the Wukong. And you have this still team fight that's capable of taking competition when you're in the right situation.
He got caught monkeying around there. Will get hit by the smoke screen and a couple shotgun bolts. Thankfully for him, Darkwing's not going to be able to aid in the damage department, as it is going to be Cope looking to try and take control back to the pacing of this game.
Yeah, their biggest thing is when they are looking to team fight, they have to have concept around. They almost have no plays to be made outside of like what would be like a Zoe bubble pickoff or something like a really good kick from Sheedan, anything of that sort, without there being concept around. If you're at like 3 members plus, if concept isn't there, you're losing that fight almost certainly. And especially now that like you messed up your lane assignment. I'm not sure if like Wukong had deployed into bottom lane. I think maybe something had gone wrong during the course of this process. They had driven him out of top side and had to back and came back. Now Graves has pulled gold with this top side push with this Rift Herald. They're responding mid lane.
Solar Flare coming in is able to force the cleanse out of Sketch. Lots of damage traded back onto the Leona. Gotta watch out for that Sleepy Trouble bubble, as it is going to be Shrimp coming back to threaten their lives. The HP bars are looking quite fine for the squad of AOE Dream.
That is.
Oh, never mind.
Not anymore. Yeah, the Zoe's always going to make that a problem. And, oh, Speedo. Okay. I was really confused because he was going to take the tower, and I thought he was going to drop the Rift Herald. I honestly, I don't love this here. We're going to watch this play out because there's some shenanigans going about.
Yeah, this is going to be a forced fight around the dragon. This squad of Cope is completely disorganized. The Ragnarok comes out, Duo King first to fall. You can see the Lee Sin looking for the pick into the backside. It's going to be able to find the Olaf Cyclone. Running wild, Gore Drinker to give the HP. Survives through it all, and the damage is done. Blue Sky's looking almost untouched, but this Graves is looking to change all of that. The shield bow coming through clutch for this Graves as this only Shrimp Cat. But Shrimp Captain is somebody you don't want to mess with right now around the Dragon Pit. You can see Speedo has to get away.
They do. Just gonna leave the dragon on its own devices. This whole play from Dream was risky from top to bottom because they were forcing their way into a river. They were forcing their way into the firing range of what was both a Caitlyn and a Zoe. You're taking a lot of risk by doing that. I thought what was going to happen was they were going to push up mid lane, and then the shift coming out from Cope was going to prompt Speedo to just stay top, put down Rift Herald, and be like, okay, you can either go take Dragon, and we're okay with that, because we're up 2, and then you lose your whole top side, you lose Inhibitor Tower off the back of that, or you go respawn there, and then we take Dragon, and we, like, if you try to fight us, like, we just have an advantage, because, you know, unless you leave Wukong here, and then in which case, like, the Graves is just gonna muscle through whoever you put in topside. They end up flipping all of it on that fight in the river, which could have gone very wrong, and very nearly did. Thankfully, again, Speedo has strong enough, had enough gold, had the Immortal Shield Bow, able to get themselves enough pressure, and after the fight, they're able to get back onto the map. They grab this dragon up. Not the gold advantage I think they would have been looking for after everything, with only about 400 or 500 in their back pocket, but a third dragon now gives them complete control of the dragon stacking mechanic. Now Cope can't just leave that objective alone on its own.
Yeah, I mean, that was the most interesting thing about that whole interaction is they fought tooth and nail for this dragon, and everybody had enough time. I mean, Dream had enough time to grab all the vision required around Dragon, and it's like, all right, well, I guess we just take it. And now they are, like you said, on Soul Point. Baron is up on the table. We did get to see a 20-minute Baron last time, so gotta be careful about these teams. They're very decisive when it comes down to these neutral objective fights and reaping the benefits of them.
The thing that Cope did do very right there, which, again, despite losing the fight and being very close, despite losing the dragon, being down 3 now, you at least have gold on your Caitlyn. Caitlyn was able to get back into the game because of that. Not quite to the level of Helios. You're down a little bit. The Phantom Dancer's not quite done yet, so you're down at least part of an item. But it's not just completely unacceptable anymore. Now the Caitlyn.
Oh, look at those tags. The Caitlyn got dropped so incredibly low, but it was all just a bait, mate. As it is going to be Cope looking to continue the fight on forward. The Ragnarok has been used. It's going to be both of them going down. 2 kills in favor of Cope. And now Blue Skies, he's got an ace in the hole, and he's looking to show you the Paddle Star Paddle Psycho. And he will find himself falling victim to the Zoe. And now Cope, they're looking to take control over this Baron Pit. Goodbye, Darkwings.
He's standing on a ward. they are not giving a bunch of respect over to this Zoe. It feels like this Zoe is just going completely invisible inside of these fights. Every single time, it's like, you don't have to 5-on-5. You can pull this team apart. Yes, you've got a powerful Wukong to deal with, but like, it's not that bad. You can deal and make sure that this team can't just poke you down. And they keep walking into this siege area where it's like, okay, they've got a tower against their back. All they have to do is put down traps, use some of the poke, and win the fight off of just grinding down your health bar. And it just continues. That dream engages over and over and over again. And all of a sudden, Cope has taken the gold advantage inside of this game. Up, down 3 dragons, yes, but at least they've gotten themselves back into 1.5k gold advantage. With your Zoe feeling great, your Caitlyn's feeling much, much better. Your Wukong is still very strong. Your Lee Sin has kind of dug himself out of a hole at least a little bit. This is feeling good. Cope has gotten themselves back to being competitive inside of the series.
The question is, are they going to be able to utilize this Baron, right? They need to get control over the map. There is still 2 outer towers left available for the side of Cope to be able to grab. They've only been able to grab 1 tower, and that was up in the top lane. So the question becomes, are they going to be able to utilize this Baron correctly? Are they going to be able, for the first time inside of this game, be able to lay out the siege and make it feel as brutal as what this comp should look like it would make you feel?
Oh. I want to note that Speedo has really turned around the game as well. Speedo has gone from being down about 1,500 gold to being up about 400 gold, something like that. Sketch is also still very powerful. The one difference between these teams is that they've got effectively 4 carries on the side of Cope, all of whom are at like what is effectively average gold. And on the other side, they've got this Karma, which isn't doing damage. It's doing a lot more utility. It's going to have a little bit here in a moment. The Moonstone alongside the Putrefier make it so that there's a bunch of utility behind Karma, but she has to find value somewhere near what this Zoe is doing, and that just feels impossible right now. Captain Shrimps is doing way too much with these Paddle Stars to be able to like essentially one-shot and remove members from these fights, and somehow Darkwings has to match that level of kind of efficiency, being down that much gold.
Just look at that. That Paddle Star chunked this Olaf so hard here. Does have the Gore Drinker Sterix completed, but the siege is so terrifying with the Zoe playing out here in the side, man.
It's not easy to deal with. This is the setup that, you know, Cope had wanted from the beginning of the game, is having the Zoe and this Caitlyn kind of connect and push down towers. With this Baron, it's a lot easier, and this is expanding this gold advantage. They're up to 3,000 gold across the board. Okay, good job. Good on Zyko. He's able to catch a fair amount of this. This Braum is a very useful pick inside of this game right now. They're going to flex the bottom side.
Ragnarok comes out to stuff any attempts at Cope may look for. Solar Flare was held on to by Duo King, so they still have that resource, but Ragnarok being gone for a bit is a very important resource when Dragon's coming up in 20 seconds here.
They're backing right now. Okay, it was just Zoe. For some reason, I thought there were 2 or 3 backs that just went through. I'm like, there is absolutely no reason 2 or 3 of you should be backing 20 seconds to Dragon. But no, it is just Captain Shrimps. He TP'd right back into mid lane, able to push that out. And with that, Cope is just going to grab this Dragon, which is okay. 3,000 gold advantage, it's big, it's not massive, it's not completely game-altering right here for the side of Dream. It's not like they're unable to.
Is he going for it? Oh, he didn't get it! He's going to have to pay the price for it. He used Flash to get in there. Wait a second! Wait a second!
Way.
You can't just let him out like that.
Okay. Thankfully, Sheedon was able to catch him, but like, if he had gotten kicked out the pit, and he would have lived that's a mental destroyer right there for the side of Cope if they end up losing. It would have been even worse if he got the Dragon and then also got kicked. Like that would have been mental destroying right there. That would have been the end of the series right then and there. I guess like there's no timer.
Would have been all across the screen. Right
there's no timer on Baron right here. The setup is still like 30 seconds to a minute out before really wards have to get put down either. I don't love just like randomly 50-ing with your Flash out of nowhere for Lambo, but I get the idea that Link is like, okay, if I get this, the value I get from just this one flash in my life is insane compared to anything else. Especially if they don't plan on coming back from a 3,000 gold lead. If they're like, okay, we don't know how to close this gap at all. If they maintain this, then their best bet is to try to get the Elder Dragon off the board as fast as possible because it gives them the least amount of gold separation that they have to deal with. And so if that was their intention, maybe that's the idea behind Link. I don't know if that was there, or if he was just like, he who dragon soul on the board. Maybe I get it, something along those lines. But they still have time. They still have the Aphelios in the back pocket that's going to do a bunch of damage. They still have this Graves who is, I mean, he's on to double lifesteal items. Like, this is not an easy Graves to kill inside of a fight, even with the poke. All it would take is an auto attack or two, and he's right back to full health.
The scary thing, though, is he is armed with just the shotgun. He does have to get into a very short bit of range. So it does make it very dangerous because even if he's not getting paddle starred, he's getting shot by this sniper in the backside. And right now, Blue Skies has been doing a great job being in the right position in these fights. Hasn't been able to pick up an impeccable amount of kills, but has been there, has had that participation ribbon, has been inside these team fights, and has been putting out a good amount of damage in their own right.
So the deal is here that there's this interaction now between how do you dive and get onto Zoe and onto Caitlyn versus how do you dive and get onto Aphelios, get onto Graves. And on one side, you've got, like, essentially Olaf, that's it. And then you've got Karma shielding behind him on what is the initial volley, because that's going to be, like, your first in is just throwing him in with Ragnarok with a shield trying to put on pressure. And there's not much defense behind it. Whereas the other side, you've got the combination of both Lee Sin and Wukong. And Leona to dive onto two members, which are like the combination of the Graves and the Aphelios, with the defense of both the Braum and then also like the Karma's about with shields and things of that sort to potentially go for. And so it is a battle, I guess, of like, okay, who is able to get more done? Can Olaf get enough space, push back Caitlyn, push back Zoe, so that the rest of the team in this concave can try to fight what is the diving Wukong, the diving Lee Sin, the diving Leona, and try to bring down some of the frontliners before you start having this poke come back through. That little bit of timing is what I'm going to be keeping my eye on for the remainder of the game, at least in terms of these fights.
Yeah, oh my god, that was disgusting.
How in the world? Goodness gracious. How did he break that shield? Because he put up the shield, then got hit by the paddle star. I don't know if it was an auto that came out first or like at least in queue, but something broke it to have to take the damage. Okay, impressive that somebody knew to break that shield so that the damage would be taken one way or another. Alright.
There we go. Looking for a possible bit of a fight here. Did you see Olaf trying to get a track in? That's going to be Baron secure. Solar Flare only going to be able to connect onto one member. The Ragnarok is going to be there, but it has to be used defensively. Trying to jump onto Concept, but here we go. Lisa, beautiful kick! Gets Sketch in the middle of them all, and the fight continues to go into the favor of Cope as they're laying out so much damage. Blue Skies is just janitorial duty. Triple kill, a double kill, an ace, and Cope are looking to go ahead and take game number 2, it seems, as they are red hot.
Do not have a wave. Maybe that's going to cost them at least one more kind of rotation of Dragon / Baron, but man, team's looking completely different. Cope, so patient in the earlier stages of the game where they weren't able to get much done. They were able to slow down what happened with Link from the previous game where he didn't pop off on this Kha'Zix. He didn't go completely crazy. Instead, they just sat still. They waited. Yes, bottom lane hadn't had as much impact as maybe they would have wanted. They didn't get done in the early game what they might have wanted to, but it didn't matter because eventually they got her there. Eventually the Zoe got there, and they were able to play on that regard pretty easily. TP to try to flank onto Zoe. Captain Shrimps needs to find a way out of this situation because Dragon's going to be up in 10 seconds.
Yeah, this is sole point as well for the side of Dream, and this could be a dream come true for them, but no escape paths have been cut off. Shrimp able to find safety in the arms of Concept. Solar Flare connecting on to two members, but nobody's going to be around to be able to follow that up. Now it's going to be Paddle Stars that are going to be barraging from over this Dragon Pit. Sketch is over here onto the side, nobody else alongside with him as Duo King looking to play his job as the CC King over here. Blue Sky is trying to kite away, do a little bit of damage from the side. Glacial Fissure onto the side to try and stop any kind of shenanigans that could come out. But look at the damage coming out from this Caitlyn. It's unadulterated. It is brutal. It is gruesome. As that is yet again another triple to capitalize to be the punctuation.
That's the win.
to give
And
Cope the win.
It will. It was Dream who kept trying to find some of the fights in this middle game. They were trying to have this competition up against the likes of Cope, and it couldn't come out. Once you got this like kind of uninteractable duo of damage dealers between this Zoe and this Caitlyn, like what are you supposed to do? They were sitting over the wall, just throwing damage in, and you cannot respond. You had no one to challenge over top of the wall. All you had was this Olaf running in, and when he's not able to get there, he has no pressure to push them back. You can't turn, you can't focus down everyone else. It was a kind of a horrid situation. It looked like Dream had a lot of control over that game to begin with, but Cope was just the sleeping, waiting for biding their time, eventually got to the point where their composition was just better. They ended up outplaying in one fight, and that's all that it took for them to snowball completely out of control.
Yeah, I'm always a fan of Olaf, not when you have just Karma to support it, right? I like support. Everybody thinks like, oh, it's just shields, heals, peels, right? But the supportive thing that would have been nice for this Olaf is a little bit, just a little smidgen of some CC that could follow up to allow him to have the space to Ragnarok. He talked about it inside that game, but no success for Link this time around after having a fantastic game number 1. Game number 2 quickly comes up into the favor of Cope.
And it does. And now we've seen kind of the bounce back on both sides where it's been not really the early game advantage for either team, because in game 1 it was Cope, and game 2 it was Dreams who had those advantages. It was really that like kind of mid-game shift, and then like their compositions have also made a massive deal. I feel like whoever's had the better draft has been able to execute it better. Now we're going to get another side swap almost certainly from these two teams to be able to see what it is that they can do. Cope's trying to hold that number 1 position. They showed why it was that they were number 1 here.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the Civil War is exactly what we added it up to be. It's been a brutal back and forth affair. With that being said, we're going to send it over to a break. When we come back, our analyst desk are going to go ahead and look at how these two teams are going to gear themselves up for this final battle here inside of this best of 3. So make sure you do not touch that browser.
I drink a lot of sodas when I'm gaming. Might as well drink something that's good for me. Head over to drinkolipop.com and order your favorite flavor.
Questions left unanswered, summoner spells left untaken, kills left undone. Welcome back to the desk, ladies and gentlemen, with our wonderful analyst here. I'm left puzzled, distraught, and perhaps with more questions that I had when I left the game than when I brought back to them. So, to help clear things up for me, Peter, why don't you try to specifically, in nitty-gritty detail, talk to me about that early game? Because I find that's really where a lot of the formation, what we saw, happened.
Yeah, so I actually liked what James' plan early game was. Kind of overloading the bot side, looking to play for first camp, first blue buff, and then looking to repeat about 6 minutes in for the next blue buff. And they kind of just overloaded a lot, sending Olaf down there bunch, mid hover, and things like that. And I think that they actually played early game reasonably well. They did sacrifice a lot of top resources, which kind of left Speedo out to dry a bit, as well as kind of just some unfortunate things happen out there for him. But Dreams played well in early game. But they're on sort of a timer with that sort of comp. They don't have a great way to deal with Wukong if he's ahead. They could have if they bought Exhaust, but they opted for the Ignite for some kill pressure bot lane. But essentially, the longer that game goes, the easier it is for Caitlyn, Wukong, even Zoe to kind of play that when the Olaf is kind of on a ticking time bomb to just be useless.
Respect to the way they did try and play out this comp. I always get kind of excited when I see the Olaf Karma and you going for, we got to go fast, we got to get in there type thing. There were some good things that really worked out with Dream. I really like the way Zyko played the Braum because he did work really hard to try and block a lot of that damage. But there is a certain point where we get towards the end game where, like, you're dealing with the Wukong here, you have no exhaust. It's so much to have to deal with when you're already dealing with the poke of a Zoe. Dreams just couldn't get the game closed fast enough, and well, that's why we have series now, Ravish.
That's 100% true. And you know what? I've kind of missed this. It's been so long since we've actually gone to like a game 3 in the past couple weeks. So realistically, I don't mind this at all because what we saw previously were two very, very different games, personally, for both these different teams, right? One was actually what? No, I'll take that back. It's what we saw was two different games, but expounding upon the same concept. You saw that one team fight, or one team was, I find, naturally stronger, right? They had a great win condition across the board, and they had synergy. But they let things get out of hand, and then after a certain point, they couldn't deal with them, and then wanted to build Black Cleaver one too many times. So you can go ahead and decide which one that was. But looking forward to the next year, gentlemen, I'm personally curious as to, because what seems like are we just going to go for like just extreme power picks and then win lane win game, or is there actually a need to like go for these team fights comps, because like it doesn't seem like it's really working out for anybody?
It's hard to say with the way these drafts have been going. I feel like this is more of the blue side curse coming in because blue side's just getting stomped both ways. But I have a hard time really seeing how these teams are going to go with this composition. More specifically, like Dreams will play towards a specific style. They'll play for that very aggro mid-game, early game style. While I always look at Cope and I can never really figure out what their playstyle is going to be in the grand scheme of things, what they're really going for, because it does feel like they pivot on these strategies really quickly the moment they get into draft, the moment they can't get a pick that they really want to hold on to.
I just wanted to be noted that I did not fully submit a prediction, so this was assigned to me. So I did not say this is not my opinion. This is put forth and the lies and slander. I am for the best League of Legends playing team, personally. And we'll see which team that is going to be here through the eyes and mouths of Rebel Fox and Travesty. Y'all, let's get it.
Yo, let's get it indeed. We are going into game number 3. Rebel's in his happy place. He's got a happy little bop going on. But Rebel, we about to hit into the final part of this war zone here, as there are bombs that are looking to be dropped. Seeing what these two teams are going to line up for, as only one of them can walk away the victor, and this is the match to do it.
This is the tryouts for AOE's main squad for next season, and so like the superior team just gets to walk away with all of the money, all the clout over top of the other
Can we
AOE
get
teams.
confirmation from Riley?
I'm sure Riley's somewhere, and Riley can confirm that whoever wins this game is officially their main roster. They can just take off the Dream or the Cope. It's just AOE at that point. Everything can come through. It's been more interesting than I think we would have started the day because, again, at least on paper, this was bound to be something that should be competitive, and in terms of standing, this shouldn't have been. But we knew walking in just how good both of these teams had the capability of being. I'm a little shocked how quickly Dream was able to turn around their roster and make it to be one of the most competitive. It is unfortunate that the record currently sits at 1-2 before the record of this series goes on. Even a win puts them at 2-2, can't necessarily recover them to win out the rest of the division, and a loss here. It would mean they basically have to close out the season without a single loss anywhere. So here, stress is on for Dream. Cope doesn't have it as much, but proving that they can beat this Dream roster, again, solidifying themselves as the number one, almost certainly puts them in a place of confidence that's going to be unmatched by anyone else in this group.
Cope saying, hey, look at me, I'm the flagship now. As we are going to go ahead and get into pick and ban here. And I'm kind of curious if we're going to see some things stay the same. I feel like Dream might be having a couple of nightmares about the Wukong engages, so we'll be curious to see if they might take that off the table.
Just might be. Again, now on blue side, though, Cope is going to have a harder time trying to flex some of these more unique picks, things of that sort, to be able to work with. So there is that to at least consider. Gray's getting taken off the board as well, because again, it's movable between the top of the jungle and to some extent mid lane, but it just kind of depends on the matchup, and that's a lot less likely to come through. So not wanting that to be on the table, that's going to take it off by Dream, even though they were the ones that played it, which would have been interesting to see at least come out. The Camille also not being given back to Speedo, as he was able to absorb a fair amount and still put on quite a bit of a performance himself inside of that first game with the champion.
Yeah, I feel like this is a good answer too from the side of Cope, because we've seen 2 games now inside this where Concept's been able to get a good lead for themselves, and the lead has been getting with less and less resources, so taking away some comfort from Speedo seems like it's an effective strategy. And we're seeing Cope kind of stick with the same bans that they had inside of game number 2 when they were on the red side, getting rid of the Rise as well.
We have seen some here's the thing that's bugging me about the series. When I look at Darkwings and I look at Shrimps, I think of just how many champions these two could play, right?
Yeah.
You've got we've seen the Singe mid, that's gonna be the meme, but Fizz is there. I know Zed's got to be in someone's pool. It just has to be. Kiana, where is Kiana for junglers or mid laners? There's so many picks that these two could go to, and we're seeing them dip into okay, Zoe doesn't get played that often, Rumble mid doesn't get played out that often, things like that, and it's that's cool. Where are the really cool picks? Where are assassin picks? That's what I want from these two, and explosiveness out of another position to see come out inside of this game.
Let's get a Fizz versus Kiana matchup. That's what we're talking about here, Rebel.
Even better is if AOE can flex the likes of the Kiana between Link, if Link has played it, and then also Darkwings. That's a valuable flex pick. That's a very valuable flex pick. You don't really have a bunch of responses, especially for teams at at this level. I don't know what Sheenan's response would be. Shrimps probably has something. He's probably got Sona mid lane is the response to Kiana or something. For absolutely no reason, he's got a counter pick for it. But it would be valuable beyond belief to have that kind of flexibility between two, especially with how electric a champion like that is. This is the first time we've actually seen LeBlanc make it into the pick and bans. His first picked here, Shrimps is going to take that one up, which is interesting because last game, they're the ones that banned it. I guess they were afraid that was going to get taken first overall by Darkwings. Not shocking to see that one potentially come through, but this was, I believe, available in game number 1, yet they didn't opt for it here. They're saying, all right, Shrimps, you're on for it. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it was inside of game number 1. I mean, yeah, sure. They're looking to see what they'll be able to do with this LeBlanc. They're saying, all right, this is a threat. They want to keep this away from Darkwings. Amumu
There's no misfortune ban.
and Misfortune are up, and Amumu has been locked. Okay, we might see a Wombo here in the bot side. Rebel got a smile on his face looking at this. I have to see if it is just sick, twisted bait, or if it will be a dream turned reality for you.
We've seen this a number of times at Worlds as well. The combination of the bullet time with the Curse of the Sad Mummy, it's been a combination. Oh, you gotta ruin the fun. You gotta ruin the fun AOE. You're gonna take the Aurelia. That's a strong champion. It's really good too. But like, we want the Misfortune. Come on. Upsetting.
Well, they do take the Aurelia instead. Got a little bit baited there on the Misfortune. Had to see if that might come up a little bit later on. We did see some early worries from Cope in regards to a possible Misfortune. If Leona gets locked in, this makes beautiful sense. Duo King had a great performance on the Leona. See what the follow-up can be from this Cope squad.
So, thought process here. You take a Mumu, and then you say, okay, if they take Misfortune, we now have something that can compete against it if we've got a support role, right? And we've got like an ultimate that can cancel the bullet time if they want to grab it, which looks like what they're going to go for now. You've now paired the Amumu with an Aurelia, so you now have a diver to compete against the Misfortune as well. You also now have kind of sifted out the fact that Braum is not going to get locked in because Leona has been locked in. Misfortune still makes sense. This is still a combination of champions that works really well together. So it would not shock me if it ends up getting picked anyway, because now you've got another Wombo on top of that with the Aurelia being able to use that ultimate bounce around a fight when everybody's starting to lose health. You have no guarantee of the blocking of that damage from Braum, and you still have the really good setup via Amumu, and now can also dive into whether AZ is going to be set up no matter what. Instead, they're kind of they're going back to the counter pick that they had in game number 1 against the likes of the Lee Sin, which is, of course, the Kazakhs. You have to think Misfortune's still going to get banned one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. They're going for the comfort here. They said, all right, jungler pool is probably going to get pinched here. So they say, all right, let's go ahead and grab something we know works well into the Lee Sin. So I feel like on one side, we're going to see a lot of bans focused on concept, while on the other side, we're probably going to see some bans thrown down there towards the bot side on some picks that work really well with Amumu.
At minimum, the Misfortune almost certainly has to be taken. It's one of, if not the best champion to pair alongside the Amumu. From there, I think you can be a little bit more flexible with what it is that you're going to do, because you also have to consider yourself of, can Speedo actually take this Aurelia? Is Darkblade just going to take the Aurelia into the likes of the LeBlanc no matter what the situation? If they're going to leave up the Misfortune, they've got to have a response for it. Ziggs is the other champion that fits so well with Amumu that, when you have Magic Resist Shred from the Amumu and you keep everybody locked in place because of the Sad Mummy and you get to drop just an immediate Mega Inferno Bomb, that's so much damage guaranteed onto a target when Amumu is able to find that. That team fight setup is as lethal as what a Misfortune can do. I just think it's not as oppressive early just because you're worried more about the mana. Wave control's a little harder on the Ziggs because, again, you're trying to really manage your Qs and things like that to start with. But eventually that damage is still there in the team fight. If Misfortune's gone, I'm really interested to see what it is that Cope is going to be going for. The one thing I will note is that they've got LeBlanc who can Distortion out of that combo if you're not going to Amumu. You got Lee Sin who can avoid that combo with, the W coming out. You've got a couple of ways and champions that have mobility to get out of that if Amumu doesn't set it up as well.
Yep, and going through the final ban in this ban phase, Misfortune taken off the table. And now it is Dream. They've got their pick that they would like to lock in here. You gotta imagine they're probably gonna lock in something possibly towards this bot side.
It'd be interesting to see Ashe. Ooh, that's a lot of CC set up for the bottom side. This is not gonna make any ADC's life very easy to deal with, because now you've got 2 divers as a combination with the CC that could come about. Okay, Blinding the Vade is interesting here, only because I wonder if they are able to take it into top lane if Concept picks something specific to work against it, if they're willing to flex it. But blinding it here with a combination like they got with the Amumu and the Aurelia just feels a little off to me.
Especially when there's a Caitlyn. You saw Caitlyn get played in the last time. There's a couple other picks that can play really effectively into it. Tristana is actually going to be the lock-in here. So they just go ahead and grab that up for themselves. It's like you said, the Vayne blind. A set would be very interesting to see what the side of Dream could possibly have as an answer.
One thing I want to note about this composition.
Oh wait, Trindamir's been left open.
Yeah, Trindamir's been up for a little while. Yeah, I was curious if it was going to pop up, but nobody's really put a bunch of prevalence on it so far. So I was a little curious whether it was actually going to get locked in. Okay. All right, we get something else. All right, it's Concepts. I guess Concepts got that champion pool, and this is one of those champions in that champion pool. It's Garen that comes out here as what is now blind pick into a top lane champion. That is insane. Okay.
That's a blind Garen pick.
It's a
here.
blind Garen. It's a blind Garen with
My
only
brain's trying to
champions.
compute this, Rebel.
I'm trying to come up with something only because right now we have like LeBlanc, we've got Lee Sin, we've got Tristana, which 3 single target damage dealers. I guess Tristana has a little bit of AOE with like her explosive or buster shot, like if you go like Runance for whatever reason, but like you shouldn't do that. And then you got Garen, who's also single target damage. This feels like almost exclusively a lane pick for Concept. And it's got its power, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. But now you've also given up the Kennen, who, you know, you can press against melees as long as you've got enough movement speed. You can get away from the Garen, you can poke him down, even if he's got, like, the natural regeneration. And you've paired now an EP champion that wombo combos with an Aurelia and with an Amumu. This feels strange from the side of Cope. They've got a bunch of individual type champions into what is an AoE composition that's come out from the side of Dream. It is a risky play. This is a very risky play from the side of Cope.
I think risk is the bare minimum of what you call this. I feel like you look at Cope's composition, and this is something straight out of solo queue right now, man. You got nothing but players picking stuff that is comfortable for themselves on one side, and then the other side, you got a pretty disgusting combo with an Amumu to hold down people AoE, with a Kennen to queue up the lawnmower blades and mow down the competition, and an Aurelia that's going to be bouncing around with a janitorial Vayne and Kha'Zix just picking up the end of these fights. I mean, it's 2 sides of a coin, man.
I guess the thought process is, again, I feel like these lanes are going to be a lot more important. I feel like Link is going to have to put in some work in the earlier phase of this game, just making sure that these lanes don't go very poorly. I do run the risk of team fights not being there from the side of Cope. I'm really excited to see what game plan they've got for the early game, because it can be very disastrous if things don't go right.
Yeah, I'm going to be infinitely curious as we are going to send it over to a break, a little ad, and when we come back, we are going into our final battle of the night. So don't touch that browser, as we will be right back on the Rift. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. That is Big Garen on the screen as it zoomed into the mats. And we are getting into our final game of the night here for the UPL this Friday. Rebel.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
This is my brain's still trying to compute, man.
Like, I'm just like, I'm still floored about the fact that like this champion really hasn't been played since Yuumi came out. Because like that was the combination when she came out, was like the Garen Yuumi bot lane.
I'm getting nightmare fuel again, man.
Yeah, it's like I'm really surprised Yuumi has not made even a single appearance inside of this series whatsoever. We got a Garen before we got a Yuumi, despite Yuumi's like clear strength for a lot of different reasons. So, Concept is this person. I just want to make mention. From his time on Revival, he had this very strange champion pool. He had a Wukong when no one else had a Wukong. He had an Urgot before the time of Alorum, before Alorum had come up with that Urgot that had come about. It was his champion pool was really unique, right? And this, I guess, is part of that. This is one of those champions that he's got in his back pocket that feels like a champion that you can leave to its own devices, and he should do perfectly fine on. And it's into a matchup that, like, Kennen's got a lot of harass, but if you get on top of Kennen, it is killable. Without reason, it is absolutely capable of being aggressed against by the side of the Garen. So maybe that's the expectation. Maybe they're willing to leave Concept on an island, try to attack the rest of them.
We'll be curious enough to see exactly what that may result in, as we are seeing the laning phase come in. And really, I feel like we look at Cope, and that's going to be a lot of what we look for here. As we are taking a short little break here. Had some tech difficulties. I don't know if you guys noticed there was a visual bug going on as a Mumu bandaged a minion and didn't move. So a little bit of a visual bug going on. So getting that sorted.
Just making sure that that's going to be okay. We have way more excitement than we need inside of a game like this with our Garen top lane and everything else to come about. So we don't need the game acting up on us very, very quickly. So we're not going to worry about it. We're just going to make sure that everything's going to be okay.
Hey, no worries here. Visual bugs taken care of. All trinkets on board. And back into the laning phases here. Duo King going in. There's an exhaust already onto blue skies as the aggression coming out. This Tristana getting punished.
This is not the first time. I'm pretty sure this is the third game in a row where we've seen Duo King go aggressive at or around level 2 and just lose. Like, it's just, you just
not even level 2
well.
yet.
Oh, he's not even level 2 yet. He was going to try to push for a minion. That didn't even get him level 2! Oh!
He wanted level 2 so bad he could taste it, but first blood for the Vayne. Not what you want to see on the board.
Not at all. Like, especially because, like, that's the one part of this composition that also, like, doesn't particularly fit super well. When you got, like, a Mumu, Kennen, Aurelia, it's like, okay, you want just, like, AOE, you want stuff that's gonna fight. Oh, we got another jungler skirmish here.
Yeah, I'm looking to duke it out, and oh my god, it looks like Lee Sin wants to try and bug splat. Shrimp is here in the wings, not going to connect with the chains either. But, got a little bit risky there.
Yeah, forced the flash out of the Kha'Zix, and Kha'Zix was invading of his own volition, trying to snag that red away from Sheedan. Heavily wins the one-on-one, but again, it was Darkwings who stayed.
Duo King going in yet again. The TP to try and punish. Darkwings is going to be able to find it. A stun to connect, and Duo King goes down. Tristana to follow. Link is here in the wings. Shrimp, you might not want to go over that wall as it is just danger that awaits as it is going to be Link popping the clone. Looking to continue on board, trying to see if they'll be able to connect further onto Shrimp, forcing the flash away.
What a play right there from Darkwings. I respect a lot of what just happened. The biggest thing, that invade that came out from Link was tempting to take the red buff, was punished because Captain Shrimps got to move faster. From that punishment, from Captain Shrimps moving out, trying to make sure that Link was going to go down, Darkwings was able to shove the wave, and I believe got a back off, and then teleported immediately to bot side, where he just punished off the back of Captain Shrimps having to catch the wave that he had left in an attempt to go get Kha'Zix. Thankfully, Link didn't go down. He burnt his flash, and because of that, that meant Darkwings was free to make that play on bottom side. If that doesn't happen, if Captain Shrimps stays in lane, it's a lot harder for Darkwings to force that bottom side play. Right there, really great stuff. Not a lot of players would have been kind of, he might have moved alongside the LeBlanc. They might have tried to make sure that he stayed in the laning phase, whatever the case was. Darkwings right there with at least enough to know, punishing right there on that wave state was enough.
Oh my god, with these fucking bandage tosses, he's just absolutely eviscerating this Tristana. Lee Sin's over here in the wings, but it's just not enough. Look at this, they're kiting him out. A TP has to come out. Concept brings an oversized sword, not going to be able to secure any kills on the sketch. It is Zyka who is going to find himself going down. A TP to punish and get Cope on the board.
It has been a couple of plays that have come out from Dream on the bottom side of the map. Their Aurelia picked up 2, their Vayne has picked up 2 over the course of everything, but at least Cope now has had at least a little bit of a response. And especially this early, the Kennen isn't going to do a ridiculous amount of damage to the tower, might pull an entire plate, but that's about it. The kill going over to Concept means that that's not going to mean all that much after all things are said and done. So all that's going to mean in the end is a little bit. The kill did go onto Sheedan once again, who's able to find something early on the Lee Sin. Hopefully he's going to be able to kind of take that advantage and put it across the map a little faster. In game number 1, you remember this exact same jungle matchup was there, and Link got off to a really fast start. This time it's Sheedan who is not only at the camp advantage, but also with the gold advantage to start.
Wow. Shrimp. That was disgusting. Darkwings knows how to pilot this Aurelia and is doing it to great success. And Zyko over here to the side, coming into this mid lane. Right now, Dream, they're just playing things out exactly as they want. Vayne gets a solo lane where there's no threat at all to this Vayne, it feels.
No. Sketchstream just walked up into the face of Blue Skies and like feigned an auto attack. And I guess they didn't really know where Zyko was and still don't to this moment. So they try to engage. Like this wave ends up slow pushing in. If they try to attack somewhere in the course of this wave whatsoever, it's just going to cost quite a bit. Thankfully, right here, Sheedan is around to hover, so now they could move up if they really wanted to. They're not too concerned about it. Once the back comes through, they don't know. It's just going to end up being nothing. But right there was a possibility that, like, if they get a little too antsy, they end up getting punished. Thankfully, they were able to kind of, have their wits about them.
Yeah, Concept trying to spin to win. Will successfully spin away a lot of Speedo's HP there. As you can see, so far these junglers haven't been able to have a big amount of pressure in the early game. It's been mostly capitalizing on overextension so far.
Mm-hmm. Big thing is, we haven't had to see Link kind of go mid lane a number of times to get this advantage. Darkwings has been able to do it on his own with his Aurelia, and now I would like to see Link kind of get out and about. Even though he doesn't have the same kind of pressure, I guess, that you would have had in the first game. It's opening up for Sheedan to have a bit more impact. This is almost certainly a dead carry.
Yeah, Eds definitely gives it to you. Speedo ends up going down, and just absolutely great on their part, playing to just top side where Concept looking fine.
Yeah, it was in the first game. The whole identity of Link was to try to attack mid lane to help out the Sylas against the likes of the Rumble that had been there. This time with the LeBlanc, the laning phase can play out a bit slower, and the advantage already for the Aurelia means that they're not pushing it as hard. Link hasn't made that many aggressive plays. I'd like to see more maybe to bot side, just because, again, the Vayne is already strong, and it's clear the Amumu knows exactly what is to be done. Shrimps had burnt a lot of that combo. That's why I guess Darkwings felt comfortable just jumping in, shoving the wave as much as possible. Now can hover up into the river where you can take one of those, the Honey Fruit, and then work your way into the Rift Herald, which is going to be there, especially after the topside play had led to the backing of Concept. And that looks like what they're doing. They're just going to crash wave top. They already moved out the wave in mid lane. They've got the Rift Herald under their control. It's a bit slower from Dream than what we had seen in the first game. They had that little bit about of interaction at the beginning, but they are comfortable with the pacing that this game is taking right now, given that their composition should be better at team fighting in the long run.
Exactly that. Now you can see Darkwing's trying to press the advantage yet again, but here comes the reinforcements. Not going to be able to connect with any of those skill shots there, and that will result in Darkwings getting out completely fine. Herald in the pocket of Link as well, and Dragon still up. Neither one of these teams have done any kind of dancing around it.
Darkwings has had a really good series so far. He's like an exceptional laner for everything that he's been capable of doing in and out. So props to him, just like, time and time again. The mid lane matchup is a really cool one. Looking at it on paper, it's Darkwings versus Captain Shrimps. And we talked about the champion pool. We talked about how well known that these two are, how well established, how both of them went to proving grounds this year. And yet it is Darkwings who has just time and time again during the series really gotten that advantage over top of Captain Shrimps. It to his own volition or just absorbing resources from Link. Big props to him and his ability to kind of be something that this team can play around to start off the game.
Exactly that. And with the flexibility, you got to have that impact and make things work out in favor of your team here. We're getting into the 10-minute mark. Seeing some wards, seeing some backs, and seeing these junglers coming down to this bot side could mean a very interesting series of events to unfold.
You know what we haven't seen? A dragon. This is the first game I think we've had with a post 10-minute dragon. All the other ones have
has been
prior to this, and we usually see the first two get contested by like 12 minutes along those lines. Here we go.
Here we go. Jump on the sketch. Nobody is there. Beautiful. A Goomba stop coming out. Blue Skies getting out like a smooth criminal, but does have to offer up his partner Duo King as a tribute.
With that, I was curious if maybe they were going to be able to step to Dragon, but they're going to lose a lot mid lane if they do that. So here, what it seems like maybe they can do is move Vayne through mid lane, slow play the Dragon, have Aurelia shove in bot side. That's like what they're doing right now is that setup. It's also a lot of pressure that can be put on Sheedan's here, though.
Yeah. Oh, he misses the follow-up, though. TP's coming through. Shrimp is going to be able to join and shut down going over the Blue Skies. You get the Dragon, but you lose your Aurelia.
That was interesting. It was a proper setup. I liked the idea of what they were doing, because it's like, okay, Vayne catches the back half of the wave, then gets to walk into river, and they just take Dragon. And then also bot lane gets shoved in, so like Tristana's just stuck there. Like there's nowhere to go. Like unless Lee Sin wants to try a 1-on-3 in terms of dragon play. I guess it opened up Rift Herald. That's one thing that it did do is like, okay, because 3-4 members committed to bottom side just to make sure that that play was going to come through because she didn't teleport from the likes of Captain Shrimps and Blue Skies were all there. They grabbed Dragon and they grabbed 3 plates off the mid tower to be able to set up what would be like a mid play if they decide to overload there around the Aurelia. They can force that down. Now all of a sudden you've unlocked Dark Wings permanently, but that just felt over aggressive. Again, if you land the E, that's okay, but you just go a little bit overboard, find yourself in a bad position, and you end up losing the life of the Aurelia. That felt unnecessary for the play.
Rebel, you know something I just noticed?
Hmm.
This bot lane is double exhaust. I just realized this
Yes.
between the two of them. Very interesting combo to come about here in the bot side. Link is here on the side. Will get spotted out on a ward here in the tri-brush. So they know the pressure is coming. Aurelia is on the way as well. They have a good ward to be able to spot them as well. Now they know they're in for a rough situation. Here we go. The final hour, dire as it can be. Shut down on the Tristana.
Nice.
Dua King trying to pick up a kill on the back half of it, but all 4 members stand alive and proud in the bot lane.
Great juggling right there from the side of Dream, able to make that dive work. That's the AoE composition. Now Speedo has to respond to it. Can he get the stun up?
Yeah, he's going to be able to, actually. It's going to be beautiful as well. Lee Sin barely able to survive concept. He needs to get him one more time. Will finally get that last slash of the sword.
Oh, so close. Speedo almost outplaying that, nearly getting the kill on Sheedon, and almost getting another kill onto Khan's. Really close right there, as Speedo's been the target of affection the majority of this series from the pressure from Sheedon, getting concept further and further ahead. The Garen cannot be very easy to have to play up against with that massive execute, and the Stride Breaker, which makes it difficult to escape in that sense.
Yep.
Speedo playing that nearly as well as he could have. He was maybe a little like 10 AAP off of having at least 1 kill, if not 2 kills on the back end of that play. So close right there.
By the way, I just gotta really give a shout out to that. You said the Stride Breaker, but in a world full of gore drinkers, this man goes Stride Breaker. You love to see it.
It's not often. I guess Garen isn't really that. Like, the E is great in a crowd of people, but most of the time you're focusing on one person at a time.
Yeah.
With like Q and everything else, and especially like if your E is hitting single target, I'm pretty sure it gives you more movement speed or something along those, or does more damage. My apologies. So like. Stridebreaker just makes sense because, like, in terms of laning, it's like, okay, they get slowed down. I'm already faster than them. I get more damage. Like, everything comes together, all a little bundle, I suppose.
I just love to see it. As you can see, Dark Wings has so much pressure here inside this mid lane. Shrimp cannot afford to do anything. 3-1-2 on this Aurelia. Has been shoving this wave time and time again, and wherever this Aurelia is on the map, action is sure to follow. As you can see, yet again, the pressure is back into this mid lane. Link here to assist him in shoving this wave again.
Yes. Potential pressure. Sheedon trying to at least help out the bottom side as much as possible, because mid lane, that's pretty much a lost cause. Now it's going to be a battle. Sketch. Ooh, Zyko went in.
Yeah, that's going to be rough. Solar Flare will be able to connect. That's going to be a lot of damage being put onto Sketch. Has that Immortal Shield bow to make sure he's going to be able to stay alive for a little bit longer, but it's going to be nothing that can be done, as it is going to be 2 kills in quick succession. Going to the Lee Sin. Now it's Kha'Zix trying to see if he'll be able to pick up the kill. Finds the Leona. The tower is going to be able to take out Blue Skies over into the backside. A triple kill for the Lee Sin. Looking to possibly make it into a Quadra, as it is going to be just that. Kick him square in the jaw. Quadra to the Lee Sin.
Goodness gracious, the dive to bottom side, like person by person, going down over the course of everything. Concept's ultimate takes so much damage off of Darkwing, and that right there is like the exact antithesis of what Dreams are looking for when it comes to a 5-on-5. Because it's like, okay, you never had Speedo, that's fine. It ends up being like a 4 versus 4 type situation, 4v5 type situation. But nobody was ever together. You couldn't put to any piece of it together whatsoever. It was one person dying after one person dying after one person dying after one more person dying. Now the Zyko's down.
He just gets absolutely rolled by the Garen.
Here's Darkwing.
And now a Sketch looking to follow through on some of the effort from his support, but they can't catch up. The teleport from Darkwings isn't enough. Link is going to be over here onto the side. Dragon is being started. This could turn out to be an insane series of events, but this is just Dragon secure for Cope.
And this is Cope again with this like mid-game swap that is turning the game away from the side of Dream. Dream in the early game, they're able to set up their mid laner and their bot lane to pretty decent succession. Speedo once again falls behind a little bit, but that's okay. And it is the game swapping play to bottom side that led to multiple kills and a tower, and now a dragon going to the side of Cope that like you wouldn't have imagined them getting like 5 minutes ago. You would never have imagined they would have been able to turn the game exactly like this, and it only took really the one play. And now you've got 4 kills on a Garen, 2 full items on a Garen, and Cheated, who's also getting towards that territory with like the 2 components, gonna have the Sterix gauge soon enough as well. These 2 top jungle really hasn't been the approach that's worked out for the side of Cope over the course of these 3 games. Finally seems to be breaking loose. Oh my
Look at
goodness!
this damage!
Disgusting.
Solo queue, superstar Garen.
Concept, man. What in the world was that?
I don't know, man. That was disgusting. I was going to talk about the fact that, you know, the Concept took a break from Core Drinker and decided to go Umbral Glaive first item. I got my hopes up thinking we were going to get a lethality mythic out of a Kha'Zix, but I'm distracted by Concept, who is now raid boss material, it seems.
I mean, being up 5 kills, having like the mortal reminder as well, being able to like deny healing, like it's like how are you supposed to deal with this man in a side lane at this point? Like this is like the perfect epitome of a Concept type champion where it's like he can just kind of live in a side lane and not really worry. His team fighting is also strong. The comparison I always had for Concept was kind of like Tony Top, where it's like back in solo queue, Tony Top was like really kind of very focused on being a laner. That was a flash from Darkwing, just making sure he was getting caught up in the chain. And that Concept has definitely picked that up and ran with it for a very long distance. And eventually, you know, it was a lot different, a shift for Tony Top where he put a lot more focus into team fighting, even with kind of split push champions like Jax and such. Concept, I think, honestly, just wants to stay away. Like, if anyone wants to come test him, if any 2 want to come test him, I dare any 2 members to walk up there, because I don't think it's going to go well for them.
I just want to see him pick up a hole breaker at this point in time and just dare somebody to come challenge him in a side lane. You can even see the gold differential between the 2 in the top side of the map. 3.5k is the difference. There is a 3k lead in favor of Cope. It's all on the Garen in the top side, it feels like.
It's very, very much so there. Concept. He runs into 2. He's not gonna worry about it. He doesn't want to get brought down. He has reinforcements, but they're not gonna worry about it too far yet. The big thing is, again, Dream, their team fight still looks amazing, right? You still have this Amumu who's got the ultimate to work with. You still have this Aurelia who's got the ultimate to work with. And like this Vayne, while squishy enough to go down to a Garen in the right situation where like Garen, if you don't get on top of her, she's able to kite backwards, it's going to be hard for Concept to just purely kind of pin down Vayne without a solid flank. That's what I think they're going to end up having to rely on, is that like their Aurelia is very strong, sitting at like over 8,000 gold, far and away the most fed person outside of Concept in this game. When you pair that with the Amumu, and then you got somebody who can contest the Garen in the one-on-one, you just have to put those pieces together around some of the neutral objectives. Something that was a struggle for the side of Cope in that first game, if I recall, because they were the ones in the similar composition. We'll see if Dream are able to actually put these pieces together, find that 5-on-5 that we've really been lacking from both of these teams. That's really not been set up super well.
I do want to also bring up the fact that we've been talking a lot about the team fight prowess that can come up throughout this game from the side of Dream. I want to bring up the fact that there is only one AOE AP threat, actually, that's on the side of Dream, and it is this Kennen that gets brought into the fold with the Amumu.
Amumu is not an AP threat? Excuse me?
Listen, hold on. Look at the itemization that this Amumu's going for, okay?
What type of damage does the ultimate do?
Listen,
is it single target, or is it a big area that it applies to?
Listen,
My
the
case
person
arrested.
building big AP damage.
Don't you ever talk to me or my Amumu child again, okay, Travis? I don't want to hear it.
Listen, I hope that when he goes to prom, there is not a single one of those emo bangers playing, okay? No MCR for him, all right?
No MCR for him. Oh, goodness.
The Black Parade will never arrive in his town.
You made our producer sad, Travis. You made our producer sad. Is that what you wanted?
Yes, actually, yes.
All right. taking stock of everything that's come about. Dragons we are 21 minutes into this game, and we've seen 2 dragons taken to this point. In all other games, usually dragons are starting to lean heavily. There's like 3 for 1 team by this point. If not, there's a team with 2, and the game is starting to flip against them because the gold advantage is starting to flip, right? This gold advantage is there for the side of Cope, AOE Cope here on the blue side, and they're going to grab their second dragon of the game. So again, it's been this situation where now 3 games in a row, the team that jumps off to kind of an initial lead would then go on to lose it. I'd rather not talk about that. It actually might have been tactical. Hold on a second. This might have been on purpose, because if you see, they are blitzing immediately towards Baron, and this has to be stopped.
They are going to it.
It's not going to get anything. Okay, they're just clearing out vision. That is unfortunate. I was hoping there was a reason why they did that, but I'm pretty sure now that it was just a misclick from Sheehan. Lee Sin players are the worst about this, because they're used to using the ward hop. They're like, oh, I can ward hop, and then they put it down, and they're like...
Also, Lee Sin is blind,
My
so
bad.
you know, doesn't know
That's
where he's
true.
placing it.
Yeah, that's there. Yeah, just Sheehan didn't take his blindfold off, so now that that's off, he doesn't have to worry about using Shirley, unfortunately.
Unfortunately,
He can't. You know what? He can't put down
Yeah, wait,
another
who is
Rift Herald.
Shirley? Hold on.
Shirley's, Shelly's sister, the second Rift Herald.
I listen. All right, I still in my head canon.
Your head canon,
The
if it's
second
not
Herald
Shirley,
is
it's
the
wrong.
brother, and it's
You're wrong.
Harold.
You're wrong.
His name is Harold.
You're wrong. It's Shirley.
Shirley.
It's Shirley.
Can I get people in Twitch chat? What is second Harold's name?
Shirley. No, it's not.
I personally like to think it's the younger brother.
You're allowed to think that. It's wrong, but you are allowed to think that.
Well,
I'm gonna get our
appreciate you
desk.
letting
How about
me
our desk? Let's table this discussion and have our desk discuss it, because it's very clearly Shirley, but like none of them will agree with me. But
Any
we're not gonna
Harold
worry about that.
enjoyers on the desk? I hope so.
I've heard Kelly too, and like so many people are
I've
attached
heard
to
Kelly.
I've
I
heard
don't know where Kelly came from.
Kelly is another one that like just came out of nowhere. We need to establish the official name, because like everyone was like, okay, Shelly makes sense, right? Like that's gonna happen. And look at this, the Baron was started up after enough time. It ended up actually starting. We kind of meandered there for a bit. The vision had to be cleared out. They had to set up bot wave. They had to get Concept into a position where he gets to solo kill Kennen. But now look at that.
Yeah. Well, just look at that.
Flash ult. Yep.
Giant galactic
Through a tower.
sword.
Through a tower.
Yep.
Just ran right through it as if it wasn't even there.
For him, it wasn't.
For him, it was not there. They did have to pull off Baron at least, because everybody else was ready for it, and they still have this massive AoE. But this does open up Concept to potentially start the split push. So now what they do is they start up Baron. If the team decides to respond, which they likely will because they don't want to give up Baron, they are going to lose bottom tower. But if they don't, okay, Concept to stay on that bottom wave. This is where the pressure really needs to be applied. Because like if they pull off this Baron, take Baron. And if they don't, Concept just kills Speedo again and the second that he walks back into this lane. And this forever. They can just keep doing this.
It's just an infinite loop.
It is. They really don't have to worry. Concept now, I guess, has to push a little further into the base, but that's not that bad. And now, I mean, you can see Cope is like, okay, our Garen is no longer on the map. We no longer are taking Baron. We never really wanted it in the first place. Like, we want it, but we're not going to be able to take it without some pressure on the other side. They get a tower, they get a kill for free, and nobody can do anything about it. They just get to flex that split push. Really well played, them knowing what to do around this this Garen on the opposite side of the map.
I mean, yeah, really great on. It shows that they have a lot of practice with what is, like we were talking about at the very beginning, Concept having a little bit more of a weirder champion pool. He doesn't let the meta define him. He defines what his own personal meta is. And you're seeing that on this Garen. 601. Ultra Chad Shin is squared. He is ready. Chest puffed out. He has four whole items.
He has 2 full items ahead of Speedo right now. This is unbearable for the Kennen to deal with. And we talked about this where it's like, okay, if Kennen's able to use harassment to start with, get some resource, okay, Kennen will be fine. You just got a team fight. Concept has got him locked in this solo lane because he is perma-pushing.
Here we go again. Here we go again. Here it is. He's looking for it. Spin away, baby. Speedo, where you think you're going? That's right, back to the fountain. But while this is all happening, Baron has started up. TP is available for Concept if they decide to go for it. Because that mummy only goes on to Duo King, so it's not going to be as super effective as they would like it to be. Lee Sin in the midst of them all. Dark Queens is going to be able to finally go on to Duo King, but the fight is still continuing on. Raid Boss has arrived, and he is spinning. He He is shredding. He is letting it rip. And it is going to be Dream that falls victim to this side of Cope.
This is the exact proper way that this was supposed to be played out. So the thing is, if Cope is the one on Baron, they can force the teams to sit around, but they never really intend to take it, right? Because all they have to do is wait for their side lane to really start taking over. Concept can just, like, do whatever he wants in the side lane, and that's the end of the story. They just pull whatever they want. They pull an inhibitor, whatever it might be, and eventually you just lose out pushing more on the other side of the map. Here, this time, Dream says, we're not going to let that happen. We're going to be on the Baron, you're going to have to contest us, and then we're going to turn for a fight so that you have to come to closer proximity. We can set up our team fight. Two problems. One, your Kennon's not there. Kennon's a huge part of this Wombo combo. You need every piece of it together. Two, they didn't connect Zyko and Darkwings together. Zyko died almost immediately because the Baron was bearing down on them the entire time they're trying to set this up, and they lost way too much health. Yes, it looked okay because Darkwings got a little bit back, but this is just a purely winning scenario for the side of Cope, and they knew that coming in. The teleport that had come in from Concept completely secured that that was always going to be a winning play, and now they're threatening for third Drake.
Yeah, they're threatening a lot of things. And this is the one-man threatening crew here. Speedo eviscerated. Taking Amumu off the map. Double kill coming in. Lee Sin listening with his heart. Gets the kill onto Vayne. Shuts down everybody who could possibly lay claim. And it is yet again Cope standing up tall.
Picked apart, piece by piece. I was worried that the single target damage was not going to be the way to go into an AoE composition. Doesn't matter if Dream never gets to use the AoE. Doesn't matter if they're just going to get pulled into complete utter disarray every single time they go to fight. And it especially doesn't matter when Concept can 3-tap any person on this team at any given point. I was expecting good things from the Garen. I was not expecting this much damage to come about. This is disgusting, and it's going to lead to Cope pulling probably sweep.
They are looking at it. Cope is in a winning position here. Two minions crashing in with the Baron. Nexus being targeted. It is a last stand, but they're not going to be standing for long. Dream is going to find themselves routed, and Cope pick up the W.
Oh my goodness. Off the back of a Garen pick, Concept went nuts in this game, and it was another solid okay early game from the side of Dreams. Just cannot overcome that side lane disadvantage. They could not push the button and get that go button to really start the engine they needed, man. It was so much. That Garen was gross. It was terrible to deal with. I would permaban that champion. That was terrible.
Nightmare fuel for sure here as Cope end up hey, listen, we were talking about single target damage. Hey, the spin is all the AoE they needed, and definitely Concept going to get a couple pats on the back and give a lot of teams something to think about whenever they have to face this squad. And Rebel, that was Cope really pulling themselves back together after what was a pretty big game one from the side of Dream. The next two games in very convincing fashion at the end of the game, being able to turn things in their favor.
Yeah, they did a really good job. They looked a lot more comfortable in both Game 2 and 3. The champions that they had, they were able to execute on properly. It felt like in Game 1, they gave up too much to start the game. Like, the early game was trading too much back and forth, and eventually Dreams were able to use that gold advantage more effectively, and that's really what cost them. And in Game 2, they were a lot more reserved. They didn't do as much. They weren't giving up as much. Even if they went down some gold, they weren't that worried. And then the opposite side was also true for Game 3. They weren't giving up that much. They had that one kind of scuff at the bottom on the bottom side where they lost a couple of members, but they were able to dig it back. They were able to get their winning condition online to start off the game, and they were able to do some great things, especially because I predicted exactly this outcome. 2-1 to the side of Cope was my prediction, so our entire desk just got flexed on by me and by that Garen, because that Garen was flexing on everyone today.
Absolutely was. Do the Johnny Bravo dance as a celebration for sure. As that is it here for us on the Casted Desk. We are going to send it over to our analyst. But before we do, before I send it over to him, I just want to say one last thing to finish us off. Alexa, play Et's Gonna Give It To You. Now you can take it away, Desk.
Y'all gonna make me lose my mind. Up in here, up in here. That's the right song, right? Right song? So, moving back from the game here, thank you again here to Rebel Fox and Travesty. I'm here with Payne Destrux and ISU Payne. Gentlemen, let's try to wrap up that game as much as we can here because you're both in pain for two different reasons.
What is
Peter,
there to wrap up?
I don't.
Yeah.
We have a job to do, all right?
Wrapping up?
We have to say something about that game because it happened in front of our eyes.
Concept of X wrapped it up for us. I wasn't expecting a Garen. I wasn't expecting a 908 Garen. I wasn't expecting Garen against bots, turret diving, not really caring what else was in the game. Poor Speedo had no agency by the end of that. He was just a bag of money. And I feel so bad for him. I need a moment, Ravish. That was brutal. I wanted Cook to win, but not like that.
Dream's draft just seemed like their coach, and I don't know how their draft works, but except like their coach was asking, what do you want here? And they only looked at either if they're a blind picking and then like, oh, what's a strong blind pick? Or they're just like, my favorite champion or the champion I'm best at. Nothing made sense together. And even I don't necessarily agree with them. Concepts kind of had Speedo's number this entire series. And it doesn't make too much sense to then give sort of Speedo 5P counter pick. Didn't obviously work out too well.
Confusion, being distraught, and overall unexpectedness, I find, are the overall themes that we all experienced tonight. Personally, if it feels like I'm watching one of those old school mystery shows which leads into a house and you're not sure what's going to happen, but you don't like it. Personally, from what I saw, I was confused and distraught by it as well. And the mystery was, oh my god, do I now have to play Garen in every single one of my solo queue games? Now, the answer you can find out by looking at op.gg over the next 2 days and see how well I do. Nonetheless here, though, friends, congrats over to AOE for eventually beating AOE and then the end of this AOE Civil War series. We will be hearing from Concept of X in just a little bit, so until then, here's what we're going to do. We're going to cut it to a short break, and when we come back, we'll hear from the Garen main himself. See you in a second.
तेरी यादों का तेरी याद में निहा 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 तेरी तेरी याद में निहा तेरी यादों का तेरी याद में निहा तेरी यादों का तेरी याद में निहा तेरी यादों का तेरी याद में निहा तेरी तेरी याद में निहा तेरी याद यादों का तेरी याद में निहा तेरी यादों का तेरी याद में निहा तेरी यादों का तेरी याद में निहा
Sorry about the wait, ladies and gentlemen. We do also have the Gearman himself, Concept of X, here joining us. Concept, what's good with you, baby? How does your heart ring for Demacia?
Of course, Karen is been one of my favorite champions for a while. I'm chilling right now. I mean, winning those games was huge. It was looking pretty bad at a few moments, but luckily we played as a team well. We came through.
That's what we like to hear. So let me go ahead and start you off real quick. Now, Concept, I was going to ask you a real serious question, but what you just raised is really funny. In game number 1, you said you entered a play. I want you to tell the people why and then what you did afterwards.
Okay, so, I mean, I'm top lane, we're splitting, I'm like 2 items or so, and Silas comes to match me. And I'm like planning to 1v1 him because the game is like in a really bad spot, and I cannot team fight into like Cassiopeia and the stuff that they have. Yeah. The condition is bad, so I'm like, okay. And then I'm at the TSM facility right now for a scouting combine, and I'm sitting next to Hyper. He's the jungler on the academy team, and he just lets out this huge burp. Like he's drinking seltzer water, and he lets out this huge burp, and it just smells unbelievable. Like unbelievable. Like I mean, like I played 10,000 or more hours of this game, and very few of those were spent with like my nose being assaulted. Like I could not focus. I was just like, what the heck? Oh my god. I mean, also like I didn't have that fight was control regardless, but yeah, that's I was done after that. Like the game was bad already, and I was like, nah, we're done.
All right, so sorry, that just
sounds like
ridiculous.
That just sounds like Coon.
Given that this is an AOE Civil War, I'm curious how often you guys actually do scrim some of your sister teams, and how things usually run over there in comparison to on here in UPL.
We actually don't really scrim much. We got together for a nursery gaming tournament. My coach Argentum Sky helped put us together, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Like we got a lot of practice in that tournament, and we pretty much won all of our games pretty handily. Like it wasn't too hard. There's definitely stuff that we could work on as a team, but overall, I think that we felt that we wanted to only scrim with like, unless the scrims were very high quality. I think the team agreed that we weren't gonna meet up much to scrim, and overall, it's been fine so far. Like I don't think we've ever dropped any series up to now. I mean, no, we didn't drop this one obviously, but it was a bit dicey, but we were fine in the end.
Makes sense. Peter, any questions for Concept?
Yeah, so I think at this point you guys have kind of locked in playoffs. For I think most likely, yeah, it looks like guaranteed first seed at this point, or close to guaranteed, at least getting playoffs. Are there any teams? There's a couple undefeated teams in some other brackets. Is there any teams you're necessarily scared of or excited to play, just in the playoffs?
Just say ISU.
ISU. No, I mean, honestly, it's like, I'm really confident in our team. I think that our opponent today was probably one of, if not the hardest opponents that we expected to ever see during the tournament. And the games were tough and they were close, and we were able to come out ahead. And I feel like the team has a lot of confidence going forward against all of our potential opponents.
That's what we'd like to hear, amigo. Here, and as always, a lot of questions here. Anything you want to get across to people watching?
Anything to get across to them?
Yeah, words of wisdom, even.
Shoutouts.
Oh man, yeah. Words of wisdom. Shoutouts. Nah, I'm chilling. I've got nothing. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day, though.
It's a vibe, brother.
Yeah,
respect.
All right, sounds good, man. Appreciate you being on here, homie. Good luck in the rest of your games. I'm excited to see y'all in playoffs. Peace.
For sure. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that'll be it here from here today for UPL. That's gonna be all. Thank you yet again for joining us. I appreciate y'all, man. We'll be back same time next week, same place. Shout out Destrux and Prepared for coming on, showing up yet again. Boo Rogue. Wait, wrong side. Boo Rogue.
Oh, jeez. Really uncomfortable in a second. I'm about to lick this thing.
I've been ravishing, the most ravishing man on the internet. Y'all have a good night.
Oh, I went too far.